night and the Gemini crew.
Ooh!
Ooh. Mike into the night, you're here with Mike in the night. Mike into the night, you're here with Mike in the night. Let's just talk about the world, give this page another turn, 'cause you're here with us tonight. Everything's alright when you're here with Mike in the night. Mike in through the night, you're here with Mike in the night. Giving the world light when you're here with Mike in the night. Mike in through the night, you're here with Mike in the night. Sometimes
Things are just absurd.
so let's
Just talk about the world.
'Cause you're here with us tonight. Mike in through the night, you're here with Mike in the night. Mike in through the night, you're here with Mike in the night. Let's just talk about the world, give this page another curl, 'cause you're here with us tonight.
I bid you all good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you may be watching this transmission. You are tuned in to another very special and informative edition of Mike in the Night. I want to thank everyone for tuning in from all over the Commonwealth. The voice of the Commonwealth, Mike Martins. And the date today is the 6th of June, 2020. Oh yeah, we're halfway through the year, and man, is it ever the worst year. So whether you're watching us from your condo in the sky, or what you say, box in the sky, bugging out at a friend's house, bugging out in the woods, in your camper, in your RV, in your trailer, at your cottage, hiding out, or you're out marching the streets, protesting, or just out and about doing something and managed to catch the show, I bid you welcome. Sit back, relax, recline a chair, find a comfy couch, maybe a nice office chair if it's not being used. Crack open some sparkling water, have some lemon tea like I got, and lemon water. I'm addicted to lemon, because you're tuned in to Mike in the Night. Thank you all for joining us tonight and making this show what it is. And we got we're a very personal show. We're very personal. We know each other here. People call in, people tell our stories, people comment. We know everybody here. Like, we're very personal. This channel isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And we've created something that a lot of YouTube channels could spend their lifetimes doing and not reach that. And that's a personal place to go. Almost like Cheers. Remember the theme song to Cheers? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You want to be where you could be and people are all around. You want to go where everybody knows your name. And that's where you find it here at this channel, our channel. All right, who do we got in the house? We got Tig Nim in the house. We got Stephen Sewell in the house. Craig Cook from New Zealand. We got Tina Flo in the house. We got Matthew Ilu in the house. 1 p.m. in Melbourne, Australia right now. Blunt News, Mr. Portuguese in the house. We got Owen, Corvette Mike. We got my man Owen. Let's get Owen on the show. Let's get Owen. I want to get Owen. I don't care what time it is there. We need to talk about, this whole, what's happening with this Black Lives Matter thing. I know. Wait, you're from? I know you're from the Caribbean. I know your mom's from England, but I'm just trying to remember where you're from to get your feedback on this, on what's happening. You know what I'm saying? I got into some heated discussion, like very positive, good discussion with my man Ja Mills, reggae singer, who came way out of his way from visiting from Jamaica here, and came over to the shop today. Let's go to article scan, please. There he is, right there. He came to visit me, surprised me. Been messaging me for a while now. From Jamaica, like he's been messaging me. I don't know, like I would say a year and a half, maybe 2 years now. And he came in the flesh to see me, and I was very happy. Pretty much spent the entire day with me, and then had to go back to the coast. And we were discussing this, and he's like, "Yeah, man, there's too much smoke. There's too much." It's the Wizard of Oz, right? What are you going to find at the end once you get to the Great Wizard? What happens when you get to the top of that mountain? What happens when you know all knowing, or know, like, then what? Like, what I would tell you what. You'll be absolutely disappointed when you realize what is true and what is reality. I think the reason why we don't know, or we're on a need to know basis, is because I think we'd just be very disappointed if we really knew the game. Speaking of really knew the game, I actually threw up something the last couple of days. I kind of wanted to not throw up too much on the channel, but if you haven't seen these, there's two videos that are kind of heavily plugged up. No one's seen them. And I'm going to go to article scan here real quick. This one right here. Canada's missing billions. Tens of billions of dollars in Canada have been missing.
You, honey. She's back there. But you're telling me when the government of Canada spends tens of billions of dollars on infrastructure, it can't give us an item-by-item list? It doesn't have one ready?
So I kind of made a parody joke out of it.
Anyway.
So they're not, there's tens of billions of dollars missing from Canada's infrastructure. This video's from a few weeks ago. I just kind of remade it and kind of made it into a joke so it doesn't get flagged or something. But it's called Canada's Missing Billions. You're going to want to watch this if you're living in Canada. Heck, you want to watch this if you're living in Australia, I say. You're going to want to watch this if you're living in Australia, because Canada and Australia and the UK are doing, and Western United States, that's very liberal, is doing the exact same garbage right across, coast to coast. Coast to coast. Guys, don't forget to shop Teespring. Guys, don't forget to follow me on Facebook. I'm going to give you my Facebook here if you want to message me. And I'm going to give you my Instagram. Sometimes they hold messages for review. Like, why? Tignim says she's seen it. And here it is, guys. So there's a couple of videos here. I put up some, I rebroadcasted a couple of, or reposted a few old videos that I had that got less than 2 views. And from there on, right. Well, I hope everybody's having a good night. It's been a hectic year, 2020 by far. We've had riots, protests, pandemics. Oh, and I got another video I'm going to throw up for you guys. It's one from that same guy that Canada knew about this virus and was warned by the Pentagon in July of last year. That's why I got really sick in December. I thought I was going to go in December. All right, guys, let's get on with the show here. All right, let's get I want to get Owen on the show. Owen, can you talk, or are you in a quiet area, or is everyone asleep? Because it's good to get some feedback from someone that's it's ringing. Let me get a picture of, I got Owen here on my YouTube channel. He ain't picking up. He's probably shy. I wanted to speak to him. I wanted to know what's happening with this. Riots are such a loss to everyone. They are. It's like a war. It's like a war that goes nowhere and nobody wins really at the end. There's no resolute. There's no, like, there's Owen here. He met me when I visited Toronto.
YouTubers.
What?
Word for word, guys.
Word for word. I am baffled with the. So, anyways, what else? This is here. We were outside a Swiss chalet in downtown Toronto by Yorkdale Mall. We were waiting for Steve the plumber to meet us, right? So I wanted to throw that out there and give you guys a little bit of. I wanted to talk to Owen, see what he's doing. Like, he's in the comments, but. Because as a Portuguese Canadian, I did experience a lot of racism. I put up the videos. I don't know if you guys remember where they closed down an entire mall in downtown Toronto. They shut down an entire mall, and everybody had to produce some sort of ID and prove that they're Canadian. If they didn't, there was 2 buses waiting outside the mall to take you back to Portugal. And they shut down the mall, and this was in 2007. And there was no way in and out of the mall. So to get out of the mall, you actually had to show identification, or you had to call somebody to bring down paperwork to prove that you're allowed to be in Canada. So that was a big deal for me. And that's why I'm very, like, opening borders to everybody, but only select rich investors. No, it doesn't fly like that. See, that to me is not what Canada's about. See, Canada, or the idea of Canada, is you arrive here with 2 nickels to rub together and a change of clothing in a knapsack, and you work your butt off. You pay your house off in 5 to 10 years, and you have everything to show in your life, and you could raise your kids and all that, but everything's gone backwards. Everything's gone backwards, right? So if you have any... If you want to call in and give us any, like, I don't know, stories about how you've been misunderstood, I guess. Right? I was on the risk of being deported like 50 times. Well, every time in the high school, come down to the gymnasium. You have to wait in the gymnasium for family to come with paperwork, or they won't let you out of the school. You'd be at school till 2 in the morning if you spoke Portuguese. And that's a big deal. That went on for years. That didn't go on for 2 weeks. Huge purging, mass purging. So tonight I want to hear from you guys to find out if you've experienced. I don't care. Look, a lot of people look at me and say, well, you kind of look white to me. I'm like, oh, okay. What is that supposed to mean, right? I'm not impervious. No one's impervious when it comes to, you know. Anthony Ruvalacaba, you need to call into the show, sweetheart. I need to talk to you, man. Mano y mano, man. Okay, so Low Roller Scratcher's leaving a comment there. Donaire lost his job in the comment section. And then we got, I can't read that character. It looks like it's Chinese. It says, I'm not sure if that's Chinese, or I'm not too sure, so no offense. It says, this scenario is just Trump derangement to the infinity power. Yeah. Sean wants to call in. We got, okay, David Xavier. Okay, David Xavier is a Chinese Canadian living in, okay, let me tell you what I know about David. He was born and raised in mainland China in, I think, an hour to 2 hours outside of the major city, outside of a major city. So that's what I know about David, and me and him have talked off air many times, and telling me basically what the Chinese plan is. He doesn't want that whole what's happening in China to come here, that whole regime thing, right? So let me get David Xavier on the show here. And let's ask him if he's experienced any Yo, what's up, Mr. Wu?
Oh, what's up?
How do you pronounce your last name? XU? How do you pronounce XU?
Doesn't matter. It's depends on how you say it. It's not straightforward last name. So
Okay, because your name in the comments is David Xavier.
yeah.
Yeah.
But because like I found out about this name Xavier back in middle school, I thought, oh, that's a cool name. So that's how I call my YouTube channel or whatever, right? So
No big deal.
that's why yeah, it's not a big deal. But
Okay, so you're Chinese Canadian. How long you been living in Canada? Like pretty much most of your life?
well, I'm around 26, 27, so been around for 15 years.
Okay,
So
so
over
you
more than half of
so you kind of saw China growing up through your parents' eyes too. You kind of saw it like what they did every day and
Yeah.
when it came to working, organizing. So have you brushed or been brushed with a little bit of racism in your time being in Canada?
Actually no. I thought Canada was pretty open, but that was like way back in 2005, 2006. I thought that, like the only reason that I get picked on was because, I guess they didn't like me, but not because of my background or anything. And yeah, overall, I think I didn't really experience racism, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because I guess because I got 20 years on you or 17 years on you, I experienced a different Canada. And
Yeah, you talked about this like a lot during your show and all your videos. Yeah, I know.
and nobody like your age would believe that they closed down an entire mall in Toronto and deported all the Portuguese speaking people.
No way. Back in like because you said that was back in 2007,
Yes.
right? Like back then, I was just about to graduate middle school, going into high school, and I've never heard of a single piece of news about that. So it's quite
That actually
shocking
made
to-
headlines when they closed the mall, and there was headlines everywhere. And then for some reason, after
Okay.
I noticed, you know what I noticed, David?
Yep.
After the liberal bail-in, the bail-in from the liberals to the social media companies, like the social media, I noticed it get completely, all those articles got wiped out.
Well,
Everything. And it made headlines. It was all over. It was news in Venezuela. My friend from Venezuela called me to tell me about
Wow.
it. He saw it on the news there.
Okay. Oh, Venezuela. Well, that's crazy. That's crazy. I've never heard you talked about this. Like, it's like how the protests surrounding George Floyd was people from London, England, and people from like Germany. They were doing protests, and even Sydney, Australia. They were doing protests for over George Floyd. But wow, Venezuela. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
I'm a bit shocked.
but the thing is, what I'm talking about is that this is happening in they're protesting for another country, right? So is it the right thing to do to protest another country's problem in your country? Is it, you know what I'm saying? What do you think about that?
Oh, I feel like if that country has some sort of political interest, this is my opinion. This is not like, but if there's some, and in any way, shape, or form, any sort of political, religious connection, then yeah, okay. But like what's happening in Hong Kong, I've seen pictures of, I think students, like young people, they got like knees over their neck, and nobody's talking about that. But Hong Kong is like the linchpin to like global democracy, freedom, because it's like the model example of what democracy looks like.
Now,
Even though it's under, yeah. Sorry.
I
go
want to
ahead.
ask you a reverse question. Now,
Okay.
this is an interesting one. Did you ever experience racism living in China?
No, because I I'm not like, ethnic minority because I'm like Han background. Han is like a majority of people living in China.
Okay.
And well, there are like ethnic minorities for sure. And I think I think back in elementary school I've had a teacher, or even back in kindergarten, I've had like a teacher from like um what do you call that place? It's like northwestern part of China. And well, she's like a music teacher, like a dancer or something. And
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
like
think
the Sindo India type area, right? Sindhu India area.
uh it's like northwest. I've had people from South Korea. I've had like no, as my classmate, and we did not really discriminate against her. We just thought, oh, we're from South Korea. That's interesting. And I think there is this girl also from Taiwan. I think for business reasons, like their parents, they have like, because the city I'm from is called Wuxi. It's not a big city. It's like 2 hour west of Shanghai by train. If it's like 240 kilometers west, just you can tell the audience to search for that city. I think it's I've heard that they have subway station now because like before it was just like buses and all that. And the interesting about Wuxi was that back in 2004, 2005, they only allow cars to be driven in the city because they don't want like the outsider to see that, oh, like these guys are still riding on motorcycles. It's like sort of like image, right? Like, 'cause it's
Wow.
like
So
to show.
they basically discriminate against class.
You can say that, like,
Okay.
kind of caste system, but I wouldn't call it caste. I don't know the technical term, but yeah, like for people who ride motorcycles, it's like you cannot go into the city core. But if you drive a car, then you can. Even though cars, they have obviously they have more pollution than a motorbike because it's heavier, they
Yeah,
consume
of
more
course, of
fuels
course.
and so on. Yeah, it's like yeah, it's like it's all about the image of the city. Like I guess that's like something that I've never mentioned to you before, even privately, right? So
Okay.
yeah, so that was like 2003, 2004. So that was pretty interesting.
Cool. Cool. All right, David. I just wanted to get some feedback on you on that because I never asked you about that. So I wanted to get you on the show and ask you fresh about that. What you thought, or what
Yeah.
if you experienced any discrimination or racism being of a
No,
Chinese Canadian descendant.
like honestly, I think um I remember watching a video interview. Morgan Freeman did like an interview. It's like he said that Black History Month is ridiculous, and the reporter asked why, and he responded by saying, "You're gonna relegate my history to a month." And then the reporters asked this question. It's like, I'm sure you've watched it. I think like
I'm
most
gonna have
people
to look
watch.
that one up because I had never heard of that
It's
one.
like I think it's like an interview by a CNN reporter, and he asked like Morgan Freeman, it's like how do we fight racism? And Morgan Freeman just bluntly responded, "Stop talking about racism. That's it. It's like the easiest way to fight racism. Stop talking about like of course racists they're everywhere, but I think it's important to recognize and accept the existence of racism. Stop talking about racism so much because really it's not really a big of an issue for most people. Maybe for some, but for most people,
Yeah,
it's
for
like
most people, you know what? I would say like for cops, I believe that
yeah,
93% of police are good,
yeah, of course, like
right? And for people, I
never
believe that
seen.
ninety
Yeah,
percent of people are genuinely good people out there. There's a lot of good people out there.
that's right. They're making a huge fuss about this. It's like, man, this all of this crap is all just a distraction, really. Like our real enemy is the government, the bankers.
That's
I
that's the thing. This is what I said at the beginning of the show, David. If you climbed to the top of that tower and you got to the end and you found out all this information we're trying to find, we're humans. We thrive for knowledge. We thrive to learn, right? So once we get there, I think we'd be deeply disappointed when we did. When we
It's
knew
like
the truth.
the movie You Don't Mess with the Zohan. Adam Sandler, I think he was in that movie, and it was like when the Palestinians and the Israelis they went to America, they were still fighting over like their history, but then it turned out that it was like a bunch of like I don't want to be discriminatory against white people, but it's like this white guy doing the looting, the riot.
Right, it was somebody from behind. Somebody from behind.
But
Yeah.
it was a movie. It was a movie, but it just goes to show that like our real enemy is not at all what we think
Exactly.
they are.
Exactly.
That's why it's so important for people to do deep dives. Like this incident with George Floyd and Derek Chauvin. I don't think it's an issue with race. I think it's more of like, they were coworkers. They were working as security guards at a nightclub or something, and they had beef with each other. And this is more of a private matter rather than some.
Yeah, it could have been something in
systemic
the background noise we don't know, right?
Who knows? And then when Derek became a cop, he took advantage. And then when George had this fake $20 bill, because I didn't really bother reading the story. I think George just took advantage of this opportunity, and he wanted to abuse his power as a police officer, and to just torture that poor guy to death for whatever reason. Really, it's
I'm getting you.
it's sad that it's sad that he passed away, but it's the real issue is
But
not
no one should have got
race.
murdered for those circumstances, basically.
No, of course not. Of course not.
So,
Yeah.
all right, David, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to continue with the show.
Okay.
And I
yeah,
appreciate
thank you,
you
Mike.
giving us your feedback, and
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
talk.
no-
we'll
no
talk
problem.
again.
Yeah, we will. Yes.
Take care, brother. Bye.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Bye-bye.
So that is David from Ontario, Canada, Canadian Chinese background. Hasn't experienced any racism in Canada. So maybe as time goes, it starts to, I guess, alleviate over time. Because for me, racism, growing up with racism was a big deal as a Portuguese. It was a big deal. In high school, you get pulled over by the police. It was a big deal. You go to a job interview, oh, we're not hiring your kind. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's go over here. Lots of people in the comments weighing in on this situation. No one deserves to be murdered over trying to pass a fake 20, but like David said on the show, there might be some background noise that we're not getting the full story, right? You know what I'm saying? Let's talk. You know who I want to call? I want to call Craig. I wonder if he's here. Craig Cook, I think he's Aboriginal. I think he's part Aboriginal, or he understands the Aboriginal culture in New Zealand. And I kind of want to ask him, because I know in New Zealand there's a big clashes between the Aboriginals and the New Zealander or the Kiwi, right? And Nani's saying I could call in. Hold on. Let me call Craig really quick and see if he picks up the phone here.
Mike.
What's up, dog?
Oh yeah, you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh yeah, no, just like I'm not. I'm European. I'm a white person, but
Okay, I thought you had some Aboriginal blood in you because you messaged me a few times using some words.
oh yeah, no. Yeah, in New Zealand, we it's really part of the culture here, and the language is the the indigenous language. So we don't even look at it as that's Maori. We look at it as that's Kiwi.
Okay.
Like,
Is there a lot of discrimination going on there, or is it just passe and
No,
everyone's kind of doing their own thing?
no, to be honest, it's not really an issue here. There's always a little bit, but it's nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really an issue here. I mean, obviously, people are people, and there's always going to be a little bit, but no, I would have to say not really. Obviously, maybe 30, 40 years ago it was, and I know, like my father told me a story. When he was very young, and he liked a girl, and Granddad said, "Well, no, you're not going out with her because she's black."
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, it's not really a problem.
Yeah, I think it took time for the cultures to bond or to become, to unify over time, because when the Portuguese went to Brazil,
Yeah.
they actually mingled with the locals, right, and became part of the locals, right? So it was a little bit different. They didn't go there with guns blazing like the Spanish did. So it was a little bit different.
Well,
So
well, that's like New Zealand, Mike, because what happened in New Zealand is, the English came down here, and, well, when they went to most countries, they kind of slaughtered the natives, but when they came down to New Zealand, because of where we are in the bush, they couldn't beat them.
no,
So they had to have a treaty. So I think we were probably the first, or one of the first countries in the world where they came in, they couldn't slaughter them, so they're like, oh, well, yeah, okay, what are we going to do?
yeah,
We'll have to have a treaty. And so, honestly, for most Kiwis, we're just Kiwis. We don't have a sea colour. It's just, well, you're just a guy and you're doing your thing and I'm doing my
right.
thing. And
well, it's the same thing.
just-
It's that whole like black guy, white guy, yellow guy, blue guy that never existed until we came to Canada. Because in Canada there was no there's a gentleman there who wants to speak to us. We don't look at it. Oh, there's a black guy or a Chinese guy or a Latino
No, that's
wants
right.
to talk. We just go talk to them. We never. You know what I'm saying? That's why I get
Yeah,
along.
yeah, I do know what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's why I get along so well with the Latino cultures because I speak Spanish. I lived in Mexico for 2 years, right?
Yeah, it's so from where we sit here, watching all this stuff, it's just bizarre, really. Like, really,
Is there protests in New Zealand?
Yeah, we had a little bit, but New Zealand. I mean, it was only, I think we had 4,000 people went out to one march, but New Zealand. Generally in New Zealand, we're a lot like Canada. You talk about we're very calm. It takes a lot for us to get upset.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way we'd have a civil war because no, settle down, just settle down, have a cup of tea, just settle down.
Settle down, relax, drink some tea. Don't.
Yeah, I mean it's just you know what I mean. It's very much.
I know
like,
what you mean, Jelly Bean.
Yeah, you know what I mean, Jelly Bean. So,
I know what you mean, Jelly Bean.
No, I haven't got much to add today. I was just watching the show, and I think it'd be good to get Nanny to call in. She's
Yeah, let me find her here on my Skype. I think I have Nanny on my Skype. I'm gonna give her a call. Craig, I'm gonna let you go. We'll get you back on soon for probably trends in the housing market if you got time. Okay.
definitely. All right. Thanks, Mike.
Stay out of trouble, eh?
Yes, sir. Bye.
Bye. All right, that's our man Craig, because he uses some Maui terms with me when he's speaking to me, and he explains to me what that means in the native tongue of New Zealand, and he says that that's just Kiwi talk. So that's like New Zealand's own formation. You see, when I go to New Zealand one day, or if I visit one day, I want to see that kind of New Zealand. I want to see what is New Zealand, right? What makes New Zealand, right? All right, let's get. I want to get actually. Eduardo's not on right now. I wanted to talk to Eduardo to find out if he went to another rally, and what's happening with that. Let's see who we got here. Who do we got here? See if we could get. We should probably get Joshua on the show. It's been a while. Find out what's happening with this. So let me see if I could find Nanny. have no Nanny in my Skype. Nanny, add me on Skype. We got Sean calling in. Sean, how you doing, buddy?
Just as good as everybody else is, I think, at this point.
Good to hear. Sounds like we're all having a good conversation here. So tell us, what's on your mind, buddy?
Quite a lot. So much to talk about that it's just all kind of meshed into one thing. And sorry, I'm getting a little. I got the feedback here. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is all a sort of a eugenics program that's going on for centuries. This elite class, some Anglo-Dutch, but it's really about the genes, the best genes already being out there. So this elite class of people, Freemasons, elites, control structure, whatever you want to call them, you know, they use the mind against people, and that's they worship the brain, you know, no, the mind.
Well, you know, like Ice, I don't know if you know Ice-T. He made a song about 2 decades ago, and he said, "My lethal weapon is my mind. The most dangerous thing you could have is knowledge, and the most dangerous thing you could use against your enemy is play with his mind."
Yeah, I mean, I remember the Star Trek episode where I think it's Picard. He's, you know, staring at these. He's held hostage by the Kardashians, and he's asked to look at these lights, and there's 3 lights there, and he keeps getting asked, "How many lights do you see?" And they keep telling him there's 4. And by the end of the show, he starts to see 4 lights.
Even though there wasn't 4 lights.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what they're trying to do to us. Like, racism is a form of tribalism, you know, and tribalism in itself is a natural human survival mechanism. But unfortunately, that can be weaponized against others, and racism is among those things that they're doing. Because, like the previous caller said, you know, the banks are laughing. These people are laughing. They made a bunch of money off of all of this, and you know, the blacks and the whites. You know, they're trying to get a race war going. You know, so many of these instances happen in the States where, you know, there's police brutality, and like, of course, not all police are bad, but you know, why Floyd? You know, how convenient that they get everybody locked down. Business owners can't protest. They can't leave their house. They get arrested or they get heavy fines for doing it. But then they let prisoners out of prison. They get everybody to wear a mask, so it's harder to identify. And say if you're doing a street interview and you're talking to a reporter, like an independent media, this is what I've noticed. I've noticed that you can't hear what they're saying. They're muzzles. Right? And the cell phones that we use are manacles, right? With the contact tracing app, you know, and we all know where this is going to go. You can't enter the store, or you can't drive your car without a mask, kind of thing. And then it turns into, well, you can't fly, go into a store, or drive without the contact tracing app, which is probably on even though you've deactivated it. And then it'll turn into, well, you got to get that vaccine.
Yeah, that's what I'm scared of. We got SD921 saying racism is collectivism.
It can be a form of collectivism. Yeah. It's losing my train of thought because, like, I have a lot to sort of unravel here. So, but that, you know, that's like, I'm more of a macro type person, so I'm trying to think of the big picture here. And these people, these eugenicists that have been in charge all this time, are the same people that were funding the World War II and World War I.
That's right.
To kill intelligent people, because all these people in the West, it used to be you had to be fairly intelligent to be. They had IQ tests to be in the military. And so they sent all these people to war and killed all the, you know, family-orientated, individualist, freedom fighter type spirit people. And this is a continuation of that. And I think it's sort of targeted in the West because we have a history in the West for individualism. Like we haven't had these regimes of total control. Like in Asia, even in the emperor days, there was there was more subservience. But basically, what I think is going to happen is, or could potentially happen, and I hope it doesn't, is that for some reason they have this fascination with patents. Like every time the
Yes.
White House got burnt down, right? Every time DC got leveled to the ground, the only building standing was always that patent office. And I find it odd that I think in 2014 there was flight MH17, I believe it was, that got shot down over the Ukraine.
That's right. I
Well,
remember
that
that, and they're
had-
blaming Russia, and then Russia was blaming this and that.
Yeah, and it was really U.S., Israel, and UK, British-backed rebels that shot it down.
Right.
And I find it odd that 84 of the top 100 virologists in the world were in that plane. And I think they called out the H1N1 crap, and the powers that be, i.e. Gates and not just Gates, like all these people like Gates and Soros, even Trump is a fall guy, right? The elites are having a battle amongst themselves over who gets to control us. And so nobody's on our side in terms of these elite people. People say trust the plan, the Q people, right? Well, how many rights are going to have to be taken away before, this plan pays off? How many business owners, particularly black business owners? I mean, if Black Lives mattered, then maybe this isn't the way to go.
No, definitely isn't. No.
And there's of course the agent provocateurs that try to get the ball rolling in terms of rioting, and there's the bricks that I believe these bricks that are being laid around. The company that sold these bricks is Acme Bricks, and I believe Acme is owned by Berkshire Hathaway. So you don't hear any of these big corporations complaining about all this stuff that's going on. They're loving this. They're making so much money by bringing us all down.
We have August Jones in the comments saying, August Jones is saying, in the U.S., we don't have a race problem anymore. We have a class problem. Regardless of color, we are all broke, except the elite. Second to class, we have a police problem. They now club everyone openly.
Yeah, it's fair game now. In terms of it's like there's that genocide of the village in Vietnam. I can't remember what it was called, but they just people went too far. Even if you're a normal kind of guy. In times of war, you go with your orders. So even though if you're a police officer and you believe in the Constitution, you're good. You try to do help to your community. Your bosses aren't. And we live in a world. This is a world where it's pretty much owned by malicious, evil people, and has been for same bloodlines for centuries. And it's run by incompetent people by design. So that's why you have people like Theresa Tam. That's why you have people like Justin Trudeau who can't even remember how many times he wore blackface. It's been so many.
Never mind that. I don't know if you saw the video I put up 2 days ago where they don't know where tens of billions of dollars that were supposed to go into infrastructure projects went. They don't know where tens of billions of dollars went.
Oh yeah, and there's the tens of thousands of fake SIN numbers that the CRA is well aware about. But they turn a blind eye to. If you go on, I don't know about Google, but if you go on DuckDuckGo and you type in Canadian fake SIN numbers, there's generators online you can use. It's ridiculous. It's supposed to be a sacred number for you, but these people want, like, they hold knowledge sacred, and they rewrite the history books. 50 years ago, you could go to the library. They didn't burn the books. You still had access, right? And online, they give us information, but they don't give us knowledge, and there's a distinction.
Do you remember
because
that
they
video
want
I
that
did?
knowledge for themselves.
I did a whole video. I did 2 videos about this. How it's going to be. We're going into the information age. Instead of book burning like they did in Germany and during different wars and
burning.
different regime changes, they're going to just be altering digital information,
Yep.
archiving it the way they
Yep.
like to archive it, and make and control the narrative that way. So
Yep, it's called bit burning.
okay,
And,
bit burning. I never heard a word for it. It's called bit burning. Okay, bit burning.
Yeah, and like they're even, you can't even find what you're looking for anymore. I'm sure everybody kind of notices this by now, where you look for something and you're getting results that aren't even related to what you're looking for. And you're just getting pigeonholed into this corner. And the Twitter is making things a lot harder for people to actually expand outside their echo chamber, which is potentially explosive. And then that's why I'm like really concerned about YouTube and your channel, because they're going to put you in a corner, and you'll be, by the end of it, if you're still even on YouTube, you'll be so self-censored. You won't be able, what if I say this? What if I say that? I remember making a comment previously about, Justin wants to be alone with your kids, but that was referring to when he was asking the parents to get out of the room so he could talk to the kids alone on the TV, in one of his pressers. And basically they're trying to turn us into China. China is the blueprint for the globalists. They are the test run. They are the, let's get this going. And they will be also not just for the technocracy that we're facing, but also for an arms race in eugenics. So designer babies, right? Because
one thing. Let me add to that. What you just said there. I'm thinking that we're going to have also a race in transhumanism too.
Well, that's part of it. What it is, designer babies. They're using CRISPR to create basically Ubermenches, and that's the same thing the big H wanted in Germany. He wanted not necessarily a Caucasian Aryan superhuman, but he wanted a supreme sort of being, and he was a bastard child of these elites, and the Rothschilds. They funded both sides, these corporations.
Well,
these
the only way
bankers.
you win is to hedge on both sides, right?
Exactly, and they play all sides. They and Yuri Bizmanov said something about ideological subversion in democracies, right?
Yep.
And so, if you can co-opt an ideology, an existing grievance in a society, then you can control you can increase the momentum of that, and especially if you dump a bunch of money into it. BLM is a corporation; they're a business.
Of course,
So
it is. It's patent. It's got a number. It's got everything. It's got funding.
And so is Antifa, and people even they don't know what Antifa is. Like
Antifa is disorganized crime. I think the thing is they don't have Okay, everyone says their agenda is to go towards communism, but I don't think they know that they're heading toward.
Yeah, I mean that's the useful moron kind of that. Your average Joe Antifa on the street has no freaking clue, and they say, oh, we're not organized. We're grassroots. Well, why do you have a Facebook group and all the a website, and why do you organize? Why do you have people? Why do you have a flag? Clearly they're an organization, and they stem from the anti-fascista, the Communist Party in after World War II, or after World War I. Sorry, that lost in the German elections, and that's. And they say, well, it's different. Well, your colors are the same. They're black and red. And they say anarchy. All these people are saying anarchy. Just to make it clear, anarchy means without rulers. It doesn't mean without rules, and it doesn't mean chaos. And they co-opted this term like they always co-opt everything. Up is down, right is left. They put everything backwards. And with this all mass brainwashing that's going on, they want us to be disorientated. We are being initiated into a cult ritual, right? By wearing masks, and you see dancing nurses. That's all a part of. That's all the whole sun worship, Saturnian cult worship. A belief system. These ideas, like climate change, for example, you see that movie that came out with that was by what's his name, big guy, Michael Moore.
Yes. I didn't see that. I know he did a climate change video.
Yeah.
I saw it. It was posted on YouTube. I think it's free too. I did not look at it yet. No.
Yeah, you don't, it's not blatantly obvious, but the solution in that movie, if you think about it, it's basically saying, well, all this green energy stuff is a scam. It doesn't work. It's not effective. And the solution is less people, getting rid of us, getting rid of the useless bottom eaters of society. And that's what they call us, right? It's less people. We have to control the population. And in terms of the West, the eugenics has been actually most effective in the West and hasn't been as effective in heavily populated countries. We have dysgenics programs, through every angle, like, the GMO foods we eat, the fact that we're all told to wait, women are told to wait. Oh, wait till your career, get your career and then settle
Breaking up
down.
families. It's the breaking the fabric of family.
Exactly, which ruined the black community, because in the 1950s, the black community was actually on par with the white community, despite Jim Crow, despite all these segregation laws.
If you want to go a little bit further back in the South, in the South, a lot of regiments were black.
Yep.
A lot of people did not know that. A lot of people did not know that North and South was all about banking. The South refused to rejoin the monarchy again, or have foreign banking institutions tell them what to do.
Yeah, and the Boston tea tax, that was, it wasn't about tea. It was about the British trying to come, take the guns and take the food.
That's exactly what it was, because they were going to do a gun confiscation because they felt that's only military or military outposts at that time. That was in 1775 or 1773.
Yeah, I don't remember. But they did the same thing with the Irish potato famine. They say, oh, they just starved. Well, no, you kind of genocided a bunch of Irish people, took their food away from them and their land, and marched them off. So, but then they rewrote, we're in a Commonwealth country. So what does the propaganda in school say? Oh, the poor Irish. You get a little blurb on a page. It says, oh, they died of, famine, poor Irish. And this is, another example of how these elites in society, weaponize our tribalism and against others, right? I mean, you're basically getting somebody with less share of the pie, with somebody pitting them against somebody with slightly more share of the pie. So like the Bolsheviks, the when you had the Bolshevik revolutions, you had the rich peasants, but they weren't all rich. They were just slightly doing okay. Yeah. And that was too good. Right. And it was the intellectuals, it was the ivory towers who came in and stirred up all these communities to say, hey, that guy's stealing from you because he has more than you. So they, instead of them focusing on the pie getting bigger, they're fighting over, the ever so shrinking pie.
We got Peter O'Brien here from Dublin saying potato famine equals planned genocide, starvation.
Yeah, and they've done this many times. And my concern with Canada is we are a sparse, sparsely populated country, and it reminds me of South Africa, because you have, the farmers are the easiest targets, and this is my concern, because I want to move out of the city. A lot of people want to move out of the city to get away from the smart city bubble that they're creating.
Yes.
And among other things, violence and all that. But then when we get out into the farms, when we get out into the rural country, then we'll be easy targets. And well, we're not allowed to have even shotguns. They added 250 guns on the list.
Never mind
of
guns
banned
on the list. You can't even have a fireplace. They're trying to shut that down.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even some pellet guns are freaking. It's ridiculous because they don't want us to defend ourselves. And what you see is going on in South Africa and has been going on for some time.
Let me tell you something about South Africa. When I was in Mozambique, okay, I was doing some speaking there because I don't know if you know, but my first language is Portuguese. And I was at some universities talking about the key to fix your country is to restructure your constitution, la la la. I made, that guy you talked about, Michael Moore, I made documentaries, but in Portuguese like Michael Moore, and I have a Portuguese YouTube channel too. And when I was there was a lot of white farmers coming already from South Africa in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So this has been happening for a while.
The smart people leave early. It's and the smart people leave early because honestly, I see what's going on in Canada, and I have to say it's saddening to say, but it's not looking so good. And the people that should be on your side are too busy distracted by trusting the plan and sitting at home, and because Q is a high level form of propaganda. There's a level of propaganda for every level of intelligence. There's a tier for every level of intelligence. So anything could potentially suck you in emotion if you're not careful. So my concern is, the only solution I could think of, in all honesty, is get your food, get your gold, silver, get your Bitcoin, and get your house in order. That's the only thing, especially if if you're a Christian, don't. What does the Bible say about false prophets? Trump is potentially among the false prophets. So, get your house in order and get prepared. And also too, somebody mentioned, I believe it was last Wednesday's show, about Raul Paul. Yeah, he's good. Don't get me wrong, but there's another guy, Francis Hunt, or he's also he's called the crypto sniper, or the market sniper. He called oil almost on the dot. He shorted it, made a crap ton of money, doubled his YouTube followers in like a day because of that call.
I called it negative. I called it went negative before it did, and I made a video too.
Did you make any money off of it?
No.
No.
Nothing. Zero. No, I made money off oil. I've been making a ton of money off oil.
Good.
Don't get me wrong. I made a ton. I've been playing these hard swings, and the return is, I showed my wife, she's like, holy crap, how are you doing this from home? You're not even working.
Yeah.
Well, no. I put my money where my mouth is. I knew that oil was going to go into negative territory when I was watching the Australian markets on Sunday afternoon. I knew it was going to go negative the next day. I even made a video, oil to go negative tomorrow, and I posted that video Sunday before the markets even opened.
Oh, well, speaking of negative, this is how I think it's going to play out in terms of the negative interest rates. So, okay, say you have $100,000 in the bank, right? And the interest rates go to, let's just be modest and say -1, right? Well, there's going to be a bank run. People are going to lose
confidence in their banking system because no one's going to let the bank borrow your money you pay them to hold your money. Screw that.
Exactly. So, but then what is the bank going to do? They're going to cap your withdrawals.
No, they're going to go digital.
No, they'll go digital, but they'll give you 75 cents to what you put in. But I think what will happen is they'll hold your money hostage essentially with negative rates. They'll cap your withdrawals at like $200 a day, and you'll watch your bank account dissipate.
Same thing in Germany. Deutsche Bank passed a law 3 weeks ago. I did a video about it, how Germany now is starting to go negative rates on people with deposits or deposit that have a balance of over 100,000.
Yeah, and this is why it might be a good idea. I'm not an advisor, all that disclosure stuff, but me personally, I'm not keeping most of my money in the bank. The gold, silver, crypto, and in regards to Bitcoin, there are issues with Bitcoin, but like not what people that haven't really, you can tell if they've read up on it or not, because the value is retained in the supply, right? There's only 21 million that can be mined, and the last one's not expected to be mined until 2041 or something like that. And it's decentralized, but it's also semi-private though. Keep in mind, there's other cryptocurrencies out there like Monero though that are fully anonymous. So that's not like Bitcoin. You can track to a degree. It's easy for a government to be like, okay, well, if you do a transaction at your store, you have to give the government your wallet address, right? And you could be tracked that way. So Bitcoin is still, they say, oh, market of the beast system. Well, what do you think cash is, right? It says, in God we trust. It's not your God, that they're talking about. It's Osiris that they're talking
That's
about.
right.
They're talking about the cap on the pyramid, because these people, it's crazy what they believe, but the thing is they believe it. You don't have to believe it. They do. And that's why I think it's important to understand where the origin, like Extinction Rebellion, another Malthusian cult. Climate
Right.
change, that's all part of it. And you see Greta Thunberg with and her crazy mother and
Oh
a
my
crazy dad
God.
with the
That
Antifa
should be the
shirt.
word of the show. Every time someone says her name, slime should fall on the person's head that says it. I don't know if you're too young to remember a show You Can't Do That on television. And anytime you'd
Um,
see a certain word that they'd say at the beginning, this green slime would fall on you. And everyone would laugh. Every time someone says that Greta name, they should get slime fall on them, because it's like her and Hillary are the two.
yeah, same breed,
Yeah.
same breed. And like these people aren't going to jail, and like the things, if people only knew, how many kids go missing in the US every year. I think it's like I've seen figures between like 600,000 to 800,000. And it's just a lot of these people are they're lost in the system. They're
That's a big
orphans.
deal.
Their parents have sold them. And here's the thing too. This is another point I wanted to bring up, is the indoctrination of our children in our society. The Imagine how soft the children are going to be after all of this stuff. How many germaphobes are going to be, wandering about, washing their hands, sanitizing constantly, and um it's very concerning, and the propaganda has already been bad enough with the Marxist indoctrination in post-secondary schools. And a lot of these people, these Antifa folks, they're coming from their suburbs, they're coming from their gated communities,
Yeah, and they have
and it's all a
yeah.
game to them.
Let
They're
me throw something out there for climate change real quick. Do you remember Mike in the Night? I don't know. It was like 5 or 6 weeks ago. I had some, we had some scans of some climate change flyers that were not flyers, but print that was circulating about climate change, and they tried to impose climate change in the late 1800s to farmers because of the ethanol in the cow poop and stuff. They actually tried implementing global warming / climate change / whatever you want to call this, whatever the name of the week is, right?
Well, first it was global cooling, then it was global warming.
Yeah,
You had Leonard
okay.
Nimoy
But
in the 70s
they tried doing
going
this
on.
in the late 1800s, and they turned it down.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
A
They've
lot
been
of
trying
people
to do
don't know
this.
that. They tried doing this in the late 1800s, and it failed. But they tried. They had a campaign
All of
going
these
about
ideas
this.
are old ideas. These are old ideas repackaged and exported for the modern world to get us into scientism. Now, I don't mean science, I mean scientism, right? The experts. Trust the experts, and those experts that have been wrong and let us down,
Yeah,
and
I don't
have
trust anything
censored
anymore.
the actual
Medicine,
experts.
to me, medicine is just a treadmill to see what they could get from you. It's not about finding cures. There's no advancements in medicines. There's no advancements in everything. I don't believe in Darwinism because it's one of the most dangerous religions in the planet.
Well, actually,
Evolution.
the Darwins actually were inbred. The Darwins would always marry either the Wedgwoods or the Huxleys, I believe.
To keep the bloodline clean.
Exactly. And they realized over time that, well, we have to outsource a little, like we have to have genetic diversity a little bit, because what happened to the Habsburgs is the Habsburgs bred themselves out of existence. And the Darwins had multiple miscarriages, a lot of genetic disorders, a lot of children died in these families. So what they do is they're very big sticklers about your stock. So Bill Gates was rumored to have said on a date, asked a date, his very first question was, "What did you get on your SATs?" Because he scored a perfect 800, I believe it is, and they even go back to your genealogy 7 generations. And if they say, well, I don't know, your grandfather, was a bit of a drinker, that was enough for them to be like, nope, we're not procreating with you. This is how crazy they are about this. And it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with that. It's completely about particular bloodlines that think that they are superior. They worship, the light bearer. So in Freemasonry, the light bearer, when you get to the higher ranks of Freemasonry, Freemasons, the light bearer is Satan. And like at the small ranks, a lot of people join for a gentleman's club, or have a chat with buddies and sort of thing. It starts out in the first few degrees, it's very innocent, and you do a lot of volunteer work, you do a lot of this and that for the community. But then as you go up, and assuming you haven't bought your way up, because if you buy your way up, then you're not going to know this stuff. But as you go up, it gets more and more, here's kind of the real goods. And it's all about deception. And these evil people too, like this Epstein thing, these people that go to Epstein's Island, they know exactly what's going on there. They know that they're going to be filmed.
I didn't see the markings on the plane. I didn't know where that plane was going.
Yeah, Bill was on that plane too, by the way.
Oh, you're talking about Slick
not
Willie?
Just Clinton. Not just Slick Willie, but Mr. Gates was on that plane as well, and he actually one of his like home workers or whatever, somebody worked at one of his houses. There was a bunch of child prawn, let's call it, on the computer, and he took the fall for Bill Gates for that.
Really?
But like I said, these people know that they're being blackmailed. Why? Because it's a rite of passage for these people. The only way evil people can trust each other is if they have leverage over each other. So they know.
Well, that's why no one touches the mafia. The mafia has more leverage on anyone in politics than you could ever imagine.
Well, this is the biggest mafia, the most powerful mafia of all. If you're a mobster, if you're a drug dealer, there's no way you can launder your money without using a World Bank or the IMF. You
got to use Wells Fargo because they're good at that one.
Yeah, or Deutsche, or some Maltese bank or whatever. But yeah, like these people have been doing this for a very long time. And I think, they're saying that, the middle class is getting too rich, living too well, and we can't have that now, can we?
Okay.
And yeah.
I want to ask you one question.
Sure.
What's the next thing to happen? 2020 is the worst, arguably one of the worst years I think I've been through in my life. We've had protests, we've had riots, we've had pandemics, we've had... or so-called. We're just going to pretend it's happening, like literally, okay? We have had all this stuff happening this year, economic slides, what bailouts, whatever you want to call them. What's going to happen next this year? We got 6 months left this year, and I'm crossing my fingers that nothing else happens. In your opinion, Sean, what's going to happen?
Well, I think...
What's left to happen?
Well, right now we're in a deflationary period.
Right.
So the world is essentially paying for all the money that we're printing out.
Mhm.
And so then people will start spending their money a bit more. I think in this fall, definitely the plan is to have another lockdown. Even though the story's fallen apart, they're still going to do another more heavy-handed lockdown probably than last time.
Mhm.
And they're going to make us beg for some of our freedom back, but we'll never get the freedom that we had in December or even January. So then we're going to have economic crisis at some point, and then an austerity crisis after that. So the government's going to cut services. They're going to cut infrastructure. They're going to cut policing. And they're going to cut public works. All that stuff.
We take a step back. Cut infrastructure. We're still looking for the tens of billions of dollars that went missing through infrastructure in Canada.
Yeah, but don't you see? Because of privacy reasons.
The guys that got a spreadsheet, and you just can't put an itemized spreadsheet of these projects and what's happening. Well, did you watch that video I put up?
Which one?
The one about the tens of billions of dollars went missing in Canada.
Yes, I did. I actually read about it on the news. A few articles about it as well. Yeah, this is expected by now. I mean, look at Chrystia Freeland, by the way. She's in one of these eugenicist families. Her grandfather's has history with the I don't even know if I could say it online. The N's, the NAZIs, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of European blood that ties back to that lineage, right?
Yeah, a lot of it is Anglo-Dutch. So all these families, the Salzburgs, the Huxleys, the Darwins, the Wedgwoods, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds. Mm-hmm. And you know what they didn't say about 1918? The reason the second wave was so bad was because Rockefeller was doing a bunch of scientific experiments.
More people died from the cure than the virus.
Exactly. And this was Rockefeller's opportunity to have a bunch of subjects involuntarily take this vaccine that he came out with. Mm-hmm. And you don't hear any mention of that. You just there's just the assumption that it came back and it was worse. I think they've been playing the same game over and over. And they want this chaos. They want disorder. They want it burnt all to the ground, because if you do that, then they get to come and build on top of it in their image. Right? It's very anti-God, because they want to build the world in their image. They want to create human beings that are owned property. So they want you to take that vaccine that apparently might be more gene treatment, like gene modification, than actual anything to do with your health or well-being. There hasn't been a successful RNA vaccine ever.
Well, again, we're not on track for anything. We should have had first contact a long time ago. It should have been, but unfortunately we handed over the power to a bunch of criminals. And that's what keeps me up at night in a cold sweat is my children, and what are they going to be going towards? Like, what are they headed for? What are we headed for, as a society, right?
Yeah, and just too many people, especially in Canada. I mean, you take their you don't even realize your freedoms exist until you don't have them anymore.
August Jones just said something in the comments. Here in the U.S., we take the time to at least cook the books.
Yeah.
In Canada, it's like, $10 billion. I don't know. Here, I'll ask that guy down there. The guy was sleeping. He gets up and he's like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. We asked this to you keep asking us for this, but, we can't provide this for you. It's like, this is tens of billions of dollars for infrastructure.
Yeah, supposedly.
Well, these guys don't even know if they're tricking or treating.
Yeah, they don't care. Frankly, they don't care what we think.
You know what that is? That's a punch in the face to us. That's what it is. Like, the money you paid in taxes? Here's a punch in the face too.
It is just like saying, you can go out and protest, just don't shout out too loud. According to Theresa Tam, But it's definitely an insult to all the business owners and all the people who have didn't get to see their loved ones die and can't show up to the funeral because of too many people. Yet you have hundreds of thousands of people all over.
Okay.
Even in Africa, people are protesting this stuff.
Okay.
But
what do we do? Okay, let me ask you what we do. Because we get a grassroots movement, okay? We pull a Ross Perot. Let's say we pull a Ross Perot. We're the next John F. Kennedy, right?
Yeah.
We're rich. We're gonna run and we're gonna win. Ross Perot is gonna win that election. Old Bush threatened him and his family. It's on YouTube. It's all over the world. Everybody knows what happened to Ross Perot. His family and him were threatened by old Bush, old Walker, George Walker, old Bush, and basically dropped out of the race. And he was going to be the next president-elect. He was going to be the next John F. Kennedy. So what happens even if we have somebody that's for the people, somebody that's going to go against the establishment, and we create something and we got something going? They're just going to go to war with us. They're going to create civil wars.
They'll take out the leader of it anyway. They'll take out the leader of it anyway if it's grassroots. And they even take out the leaders of these, a big move. Like look at Che Guevara. When he served his purpose, when he was no use anymore, when he's a loose cannon, got to cut him loose. So they use these people as sacrificial lambs, and Trump and Soros and Bill Gates, they're all among these people.
Right.
They always use bastard children for some reason to do these schemes, to be the front men. Even the big H. I think what's his name? The Corbett Report does really good research on this kind of stuff.
Yeah, James Corbett. I spoke to him last year.
Good guy.
Yeah, he's a great, beautiful person.
Yeah, and he wrote a statement to future generations, like basically apologizing, like that even still he's done more than most people, and he still wishes he did, he took the time to do more. And I see people like Dan Dix, going out there basically risking his life, and got mobbed yesterday in Vancouver.
Yeah,
and
I heard about that.
and
we're all putting all of us are putting our lives, like for me, I've been threatened that I was going to be put in pieces into a dumpster when I was discussing the money laundering in Australia.
Yeah.
Through casinos.
Yeah, and what do you do? And how many other people are being threatened like this?
Mm-hmm.
Either take the money or you won't like the alternative kind of, you don't really get a choice. And, and it all started, he got mobbed, and who did the police stop? Police will always side with the path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a mob after you, what are they going to do? What are the police going to do when people show up to Dan's house and start mobbing him at his own house?
They're just going to
probably going to arrest Dan too. They're probably going to take him from his house and arrest Dan.
Yeah.
For that.
Well, it's like me. I got this guy in town that's been harassing me since the day I opened my business. And every time he sees me, he tells me off or creates a fake account and bashes me or tells my wife off or whatever. Every time I go to the police and say, "Can you tell this guy to get lost?" You know what the police say? He's forming an opinion.
Yeah.
So the police would go to his house, or if these people attacking him attack the guy, okay, and then the police would just turn around and say, "Well, these people are forming an opinion. They're not doing anything."
Or you're making them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You're making them feel bad.
Yeah.
It's like since when are we the field police? You know, like, and they spread this rumor about Dan. This is total Sol Alinsky's tactics going on, where they spread a rumor amongst these people in the protest that Dan said something he didn't say,
mm-hmm.
which was like black people ain't shit,
mm-hmm.
right? And he never said that, but everybody believed that he said that. So some people were conspiring to incite a riot against Dan Dix. But then they were trying to use the case where, oh, no, he was the one starting the riot. He was the one inciting violence. We even had. Of
course.
I watched it live. They had, and as soon as stuff got heated, people came into the chat and started inciting violence. These were
mm-hmm.
Antifa people to discredit Dan Dix.
Mm-hmm.
And all the guy was doing was asking questions. He wasn't even asking. He's pretty good about, being careful about what he asks, in those situations. And he didn't do anything wrong. He's just being targeted, and that's what happens to you when you speak out. And this goes back to the ideological subversion that's been going on. You have a grassroots leader, and they get taken out.
But then again, Sean, where there needs to be some sort of deterrence or some aggregation against everything that's happening. So again, grassroots. We get somebody. We get Jesse Ventura. We get this.
Yeah.
We get a good running mate for him. He wins. Okay, let's say he wins in the States. And but then what's then he wants to go out of the Fed. He wants to end the Fed. He wants to do what Andrew Jackson did. He wants to do this. He wants to do that. Fine, he does it. But then what's to say that they're not gonna go around and do something? You see what I'm saying?
Well, they will.
There's no light at the end of the tunnel. Is what I'm trying to say.
The leaders of the so-called free world are selected. They're not elected. They're selected. And even look at Canada. If you're a reasonable candidate, I think it was a conservative that bumped up the financial requirements to be able to run. I think it was like $100,000 you got to have or something like that.
You have to speak French too.
Oh yeah, of course. That doesn't alienate half the country now, does it?
Half the country, like 90% of the country.
Yeah, 90%. Yeah. Quebec, and then what was it? The FLQ or the back in was it the 80s in Quebec? Like they didn't really. I don't know about now, but back then they didn't really seem to like Anglo. Anglos basically. Mm-hmm. They were very anti-Anglo in Quebec, and it's already separatist. I say just let them separate, but at this point, like, we're all kind of under the same. We're all in the same prison planet. The 5G is not for our benefit, and yeah. What can I say? I just feel bad for the future generations. I feel bad for all those people who, didn't get their dental treatment during all of this, while Walmart stays open and stuff. People are suffering because I've had pretty bad dental situations, and man, dentists are practically my hero. Every time I go to my dentist, I'm like, thank you so much, because and all the quality of care of all these services. I don't think this is going to last. Our standard of living is inevitably going to decline, and by 2030, I think we'll be, hate to say it, but a third world country.
Well, we're headed that way, especially if we keep devaluing our currency, especially if we start going. I think we're going to move into a Japanization economy for a good while.
At least the Japanese save their money.
Well, here's the problem with this, Sean. There's a problem with this, is that you could still pick up something decent in Tokyo for about 100,000 American, okay? In one of their major cities, right? Or if you want to go 20 minutes outside of Tokyo, you can still pick up something very decent for 60,000 American. In Canada, the problem is if we go into Japanification and housing doesn't budge, we're screwed.
We're all going to be renters.
Everybody's screwed.
And the government's probably going to own most of the properties, or some corporation. It's global, global governance. Mm-hmm. They want us, these people want us off their land. They want us not to use their resources. They don't want us drinking their water. They don't want us eating their food. You look at Cargill Meats. I find it really odd that over 5,000 people from these meatpacking plants are getting sick with COVID, and hardly anybody in the medical field is getting sick with this, at least in Canada. Mm-hmm. And also, why is Cargill and all these other companies, meat companies, why are they investing so heavily into Beyond Meat and lab-grown meat before all this started? Right? They want us not to be able to access meat. Mm-hmm. And get the nutrition, because in the UN Sustainable Goals it says nobody will go hungry, right? Well, going hungry doesn't mean you're not going to starve. You could eat all you want, but if there's no nutrition in that food, you're going to starve.
That's why when you eat McDonald's and you're hungry 30 minutes later, it's because
Yeah,
your
yeah,
body's
yeah.
searching for the nutrients.
Yeah, yeah, and it's funny because you go to McDonald's and the Angus burger is sold out, but all these other burgers are ready to go because I think they just import it from wherever. They'll get some meat from China, they'll get some meat from the States, they'll get and just kind of glue it all together.
Let me ask you a question, Sean. When do you see the privatization that we have, in sole proprietor in Canada, the average sole proprietor, the average middle-class business or family business owned? When do you see the privatization of that we have now move into nationalization? Do you see it happening in Canada by 2030?
I'd say that would be probably a safe estimate.
Really? What
yeah.
about neo-feudalism, where they just take it all?
Well, that depends on us. A lot of this depends on us.
That's the
and
key. It's us.
Unfortunately, we are so docile as a country. We are subservient. We are too. It's like people prefer the infantilization over, the independence.
That's dangerous. Okay, now, so if that's the case, how? I mean, okay. A good demonstration is our last political debate. I covered it here on the channel, and I was hoping they would discuss the fentanyl crisis, the opioid crisis, the homeless crisis, the housing affordability crisis, the laundered money. And everybody there, none of the people running for Prime Minister of Canada, not a single person brought that up.
No, they're not going to. Why would they?
But that's what's destroying the fabric of our society. Laundered money, billions of dollars laundered through, and shadow flipped through our real estate.
But they want it destroyed. This is all intentional. This is by design. They want us because they want us all on UBI. They want us all to lose our jobs, be dependent on the government, get the government cheese, and then they can say, well, you're not going to get your UBI until you take that vaccine. That's the game. It's manufactured consent. They need our consent, manufactured or otherwise. They need our consent, and we aren't being given informed consent. They're trying to deny that by, censoring people, other voices off the internet, into oblivion, essentially, and writing over it. They want to do that with our brain. They're making us all confused so that we have no we have no ground to stand on. So we don't know what's up, what's down. They want to totally invert our values, particularly Christian values. People don't talk about the persecution going on around the world against Christians. Once in a while, I hear about the Yazidis, and that's not, none of this is okay, obviously. But all I ever hear about is something that happened in the 1940s. Mm-hmm. And the very people that are responsible for that are, they got off scot-free then, and if we don't all be aware and be the change we want to see. I know it's like cliche. Then we're kind of doomed.
Sean, you know what my mentality is? It's their conflict, not ours. We weren't born. You know what I'm saying? Oh, back in the 100 years ago, there was this and this and that.
Yeah.
Well, that was their conflict, not mine and yours.
But you see, ontological guilt, generational guilt. It's not okay until it's something that supports their argument. And like when it comes to I hear about the Western slave trade a lot. What about the Eastern slave trade? How come there's not a lot of black people in the Middle East? Mm-hmm. Maybe because the caliphate at the time castrated their slaves, mm-hmm. and they enslaved everybody. Orders of magnitude more than the Western slave trade. and only 1%, I believe it was like 1 to maybe even 1 to 4%, maybe people were slave owners. And
What about the white slaves from Eastern Russia?
yeah, and also, and the word slave comes from Slav.
Mm-hmm.
But people, these people are indoctrinated in school, both elementary, high school, because they have social justice in high school now classes, and
What?
they have
Are you
social
telling me
justice
our
class in high school.
tax dollars are paying for that?
Yeah, our tax dollars are paying for more than that. Our tax dollars are being paid for our own destruction.
And they're
right?
and they're pushing this Darwinism, evolution, and that's a
Yeah.
dangerous religion, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's in the eye of the beholder, because what if something perceived to be as a flaw actually helps you survive in the future in the environment,
Yeah.
right? They are trying to create the world in their image. They're trying to be gods. And so what their plan is they want a polytheistic religion in the end, that is kind of like, it's like the CCP, how you can be a Christian, but your loyalty is to the Communist Party. That is, the number one, right? Or you could be a Muslim, but your loyalty and devotion and worship has to be at the CCP.
And that's
Right.
why the Portuguese were heavily murdered in Japan in the late 1500s, 1600s, and because the one thing the Portuguese brought was trade, but another thing they brought was Christianity, Roman Catholicism to Japan. And once the emperor noticed that Roman Catholicism was taking over and giving the poorest people hope, they didn't want that.
It was a threat to the control structure.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't know if you've seen the movie. It's by Martin Scorsese. It's called Silence.
No, I haven't.
It's on Netflix. It's called Silence. It came out 3-4 years ago, and it's about the Portuguese priests basically being murdered for spreading Christianity.
Well, yeah, and these people really hate Jesus.
Mhm.
Like they're because like people think, oh, religion. Well, Jesus was actually very anti-religious.
He was, and he didn't
And-
set out to invent Christianity too. A lot of people don't know that.
No, and he said, the church is the people.
Not the
if you were
bricks
to
and
show up-
mortar. Not the brick and mortar.
Yeah, exactly. That's a lodge. It's like a Freemason lodge you go to. That's their church. But if Jesus were to walk into a nice fancy church nowadays, you'd think they'd let him in, wearing robes and dirt on his feet and looking all scruffy. No, they who knows? Maybe they would, but I don't think all would be too accepting of him. And it's become idol worship. The Pope is a satanic. He's a sun worshiper, right? He's not Christian. He's not Catholic. He's not whatever. He worships a different god than what he claims to. And you look at his behavior, what he does, and you look at his if you look at a picture of his speaking hall on the outside of the building looks like the head of a serpent, and if you look on the inside, it looks like the teeth and the eyes of a serpent on the inside. And they have this giant sculpture behind him where there's a bunch of souls, clinging to Jesus, and Jesus's hair is blowing in the wind, and his hair is actually in the shape of a serpent. So, people listening, watching, go ahead and look up the Pope's speaking hall to look at pictures and tell me what you think. It's not like I'm not trying to grasp at straws here. It really does. It really is a serpent's head. Even his square, the St. Peter's Square, I believe it's called. It's in the shape of a womb. It's a womb. It's for like fertility. So it's not Christian at all. It's idol worship, and it's been subverted long time ago. Long time ago it's been subverted. So your relationship with God, if you are religious, is between you and God, not anything in between.
No, I know.
And
I don't preach.
I don't
I
mean to
don't preach
preach.
Christianity.
Yeah.
I'm Roman Catholic. I don't preach Christianity, but what I do is I like to see things too, right? Like, so when people says, Mike, you don't believe in Darwinism? No, I believe in creationism. I believe that everything's just way too perfect, and this
Yeah.
on Earth is our trials, right? It's
Well,
just way
of
too
the
perfect.
world versus in the world.
And Darwinism and evolution, that's a bunch of garbage. Until a dog could produce a giraffe, then I'll start looking at Darwinism and evolution. The second the soup that gets hit by lightning in some swamp produces another human or produces some sort of a giraffe or something, then I'll start looking at evolution.
Yeah, and I just wanted to touch on, and I don't mean to be preachy, guys. Like, if you're an atheist, like I'm actually agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I've always just been sort of fascinated by all the antiquitous history along with modern day and how it ties into modern day. It's always just fascinated me. But I just wanted to touch upon the Canadian Charter of Rights
Oh,
article.
the most
Yeah.
transparent piece of paper that you hold it up to the light, you can see right through it.
Yeah, yeah. Article 33. Basically, that's the veto that gives us no rights. We don't have rights in Canada. If we were ever to have, the only way is we have to have a redrafted constitution, and I don't think that I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Maybe in a few hundred years, who knows? But I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. And you notice that, like, they really push the abortion. So that means the government doesn't have to. I'm really getting off, digressing here, but I have to explain this. The government doesn't have to pay to help raise your kid if you get an abortion, and the government doesn't have to pay your pension if you get euthanized. Both things are things that our government is trying to do. They're trying to get family members to sign. In Delta, there was this care home, a hospice actually, and they said the government came in and told them, well, you have to give them the option of being euthanized. And they said, well, we don't do that here. That's not the sort of thing that we want to do here. And they said, well, if you don't, then we will cut your funding. And then the hospice was like, well, okay, cut our funding. We'll try to make it on our own. Well, sorry, you're on government land, so you're going to have to get evicted.
Yeah, they always make up some garbage. They always make up some garbage when they don't get their way.
Oh yeah. And this is I'd be leery. Like I'm starting to get pretty leery of showing up to a hospital where all these people are dancing and there's the people that really need the care aren't getting the care that they need.
Yeah.
I mean, what does it take for people to realize that we're being played?
Yeah.
But it takes a lot, apparently, right? And until it impacts people on an individual level, they won't get it. And even still, by that point, I think they'll be so paranoid that Big Brother's watching that they can't do anything about it anymore. So.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to take up all your airtime.
Well, we've been talking
here.
for a whole hour, Sean, and I'm gonna put a link for the trailer of the movie that I really want you, Sean, to watch this. So when we get you back on the show sometime, when you want to come back on, I really want to talk maybe 10 minutes about this. I want you to watch this. Your homework. Watch this movie when you get some time. Okay.
All right, yeah, and one more thing too, if you want to know what the elites want for us in the future, read A Brave New World, watch A Clockwork Orange, Brazil
with Brazil spelt differently. Yeah, Brazil with an
with a
S,
Z,
right?
or with a Z. 1985. Just type in Brazil 1985.
Brazil, yeah.
Yeah. And then you'll see it. 1984. We kind of all, I think, most of us know that what that's about. And there's so many other movies too, but reading A Brave New World, that is pretty much on par with what we're to expect. So.
Okay, Sean.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and we'll talk. We'll hopefully talk soon and get you back on the show whenever you want to come back.
Yeah, my pleasure.
God bless.
Take care.
Take care. Bye. All right, guys, that is Sean. You could see him in the comments, Sean Lieberman. He's always commenting. He's always finally gets the call into the show, but he's always been participating in the comments, right? Guys, I'm gonna leave you a link for this trailer here. Everyone, like from a year ago when I put this trailer up, a lot of people came back on the show the next week and said, "I watched the movie you were saying, Mike. Holy crap! This is a big deal." Guys, this is a trailer to a movie that I want everyone on the channel to watch. It doesn't matter what your background or what religious background. Just watch this movie, okay? That's it. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking you to change water into wine. I'm not asking, watch this movie. All right, let's go really quick to a channel plug. I haven't done a channel plug yet on the show, which was really interesting. I've been going full blast here. Wow, we got over 170 people watching. Some shows we get over 200 watching. Guys, I want you guys watching Mike in the Night. I want you guys to understand something about the show. I'm not going to go outright and say what the show is about on the title. That's why this show tonight is called Mike in the Night, I Light My Torch and Wave It. Okay, it's code, right? Let's go to article scan here. It's called I Light My Torch and Wave It. The second you start bringing up riots, this in the title, it doesn't get out there, and then it becomes a problem, and this and that. That's why you got to look at some of the titles, right? Next Mike in the Night's called In Touch with the Ground. I mean, that could mean anything, right? Well, what are we in touch with? What do we know, right? So keep that in mind, guys. When you see the titles, don't judge the titles of the show, right? The week after Mike in the Night's called Aurora Borealis comes in view, right? Aurora Borealis comes in view. Well, that can mean a few things, right? So, guys, don't forget to set your reminders for all the shows coming up. Don't forget to get on here on, what is this, Teespring. If you guys want to buy something, you could find the links on the top of the channel here for that. And I'm going to give you guys my Facebook if you guys want to. Well, I got somebody messaging me via FaceTime here on Facebook, but I'm not going to get that right now. It looks like someone's in the back of a taxi somewhere. And guys, I'm going to give you my Instagram if you guys want to just send me something directly. If these stupid companies don't, if these dumb companies don't, filter, because people are trying to message me, and I have all these filtered messages that are not getting to me, so they're always finding a way so that, you know what I mean, so that I don't get the information, right? So we got Sean Lieberman says, "Thanks, folks. Long-winded and all over the place." Yeah, man, that's how it rolls here on the. That's why tonight's show is called I Light My Torch and Wave It. So, guys, scroll up to the link I left way up, and I would like for you, if it's okay to, if you don't mind. Okay, Nanny's calling in. She called in earlier. Nanny, what's up? So we got.
Oh, hi, how are you?
I'm doing phenomenal. So good to hear from you.
Yes, it's been a long time.
I know it's been a while. So good to hear from you. So what's going on? You wanted to say something.
Well, it was interesting. I watched a Stefan Molyneux video, and he was talking about, he was looking through the autopsy report, and I did look it up myself, and it is confirmed that George Floyd, he did have fentanyl, methamphetamine, and cannabinoids, and morphine, and he tested positive for COVID. And I also discovered something else. Have you ever heard of excited delirium?
No.
I looked it up on a medical journal, and looking at the symptoms, I'm not a medical professional here, but it just seems like a bit of a coincidence how it matches. So I'll just read out.
Go ahead, please.
So excited delirium, it's excited or agitated delirium characterized by agitation, aggression, acute distress, and sudden death. Often in the pre-hospital care setting, it is typically associated with the use of drugs that alter dopamine processing, hypothermia, and I just lost the bit. So it is typically associated with the use of drugs that alter dopamine processing, hypothermia, and most notably, sometimes with death of the affected person in the custody of law enforcement. Subjects typically die from cardiopulmonary arrest, although the cause is debated. So, yes, in fact, most patients die before hospital arrival. This is quite interesting because the autopsy of George Floyd, it showed that he had all these drugs in his system. Fentanyl in particular is 80 to 100 times stronger than heroin. He had hypertension. He also had sickle cell anemia.
I've seen some other videos of the whole fentanyl and all those other drugs where people become like complete terminators and they can't be taken down and they're like superhuman, you know?
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the protesters are portraying him as, I don't know him, but the protesters are portraying him like this family guy. He's an innocent guy, like he's got a clean slate. But he's got a history of drugs. I think it was 10 years ago, he broke into a woman's house with another group of men to rob her for drugs and money. He pointed a gun at her abdomen. So this is not like an average Joe type of person. He also did porn. And also, looking at the footage, there's also a transcript that goes along with it. But he's with two other people in a vehicle, a man and a woman, during the day. And it just seems a bit unusual. Like, what is he doing with them? And he's obviously under some sort of influence. I could just quickly read some parts of the transcript. So the English isn't very good. I think the person who worked at the cigarette store has English as their second language. So
kind of like me.
Asks, well, you speak better. This is a little bit hard to understand. But the operator asked, "How can I help you?" The caller of the cigarette store said, "Someone's come our store and give us fake bills, and we realized it before he left the store. And we ran back outside. They were sitting on their car. We tell them to give us their phone, put their inaudible thing back and everything. And he was also drunk and everything and returned to give us our cigarettes back so he can go home. But he doesn't want to do that. And he's sitting on his car because he is awfully drunk and he is not in control of himself." And then they ask the description of the car. It's blue. Okay, so on 38th Street, so this guy gave a counterfeit bill, has your cigarettes, and he's under the influence of something.
Mm-hmm.
The guy at the shop says something like that. Yes, he's not acting right. He describes him as he's a tall guy. He's like tall and bald, about 6'5", and he's not acting right. And he started to drive the car. So this is quite interesting because the shop owner, or not the shop owner, the person working at the cigarette store, they realized, okay, it was a counterfeit bill. And they went outside and confronted George Floyd and the other two people. And they didn't want to call the police. They gave them the choice to just give the cigarettes back and you can go home. We're just like nothing ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
And he refused. So this is when the person working at the shop called the police because obviously with COVID, businesses are struggling to make some bucks. And so the police arrive and actually he did resist getting out of the vehicle. He was pulled out. And also he lied saying, "I'm claustrophobic," as an excuse to not get into the police vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
But he was already in a vehicle. Like he was staying in a vehicle even if the police hadn't have come. And obviously, I haven't seen the footage. People can't really see the footage, what's happening behind the car. But he didn't want to get into the police car, so he was resisting arrest. And this is something that kind of bothers me, is that whenever there's a viral video similar to this. People like the protesters, the Black Lives Matter, they tend to cover up the whole truth. Like they cover up the bad sides. They don't show all the facts. That it's bad to actually resist arrest. Whether a person is guilty or not guilty, resisting arrest will always escalate the situation. And obviously, I do believe he was struggling to breathe, and maybe that police officer, Derek, it seemed like he was being over the top.
He was.
Yeah.
I could speak for him. I could speak for a lot of people and say that guy was just a total dumbass. I'm sorry. He's just
It's quite interesting also because he worked, George Floyd and this guy Derek
at a club.
They
Yes.
both were, yeah. And something that was quite interesting is I saw in a discussion that there were doctors and GPs saying that if a person is suffering from strangulation or asphyxia, whether like from internal or external forces, if they cannot breathe, they cannot actually use their vocal cords to speak. They cannot even say a word. And that's quite interesting because even when I remember like choking on something, that I can't even make a sound. So I think it is true that he was struggling to breathe, but I don't think it was from the strangulation or asphyxia per se. I think it's from the heart attack. But obviously the way the situation was handled, it wasn't good. I personally think if it was true that it was a heart attack or from the drugs, because he did have strong drugs in his system, I think he probably would have died even if he didn't steal the cigarettes from the store. And if he had been in the car and driven off, what if he just collapsed by the wheel and created a car accident?
Mm-hmm.
That's another possibility.
Right. So we got Eamon in the comments saying, white people treated way more fairly than black people. The protesters are not making Floyd a savior. They are protesting for equality and police brutality. Police had no right to kill him.
Well, it's debatable whether it was murder or not. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it's right for mobs to rule and to create a judgment like in the court of law.
Mm-hmm.
It should just be based on the autopsy, the facts, and the actual witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's quite difficult to really put yourself, because everyone now has seen the articles and that they've seen the video and stuff, and they know that he had heart conditions or something. But if you were a police officer and it wasn't your first day on the job,
mm-hmm.
and it does happen that when trying to arrest people, they would lie to try and escape,
mm-hmm.
or they would fake an injury or exaggerate. And also they would, especially if they know that they have AIDS or hepatitis or some sort of disease, there's a possibility that they could turn around and just spit on the police and contaminate them, because it does happen in Australia. There have been police officers that did catch hepatitis from trying to arrest people. So it's hard, because when I first saw the footage and I didn't know anything about this autopsy, I just thought he was quite an athletic, tall-looking guy, and he just looked drunk to me. And police officers aren't medical professionals, and they don't know his name. They don't know his criminal past at that exact time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but that cop knew him.
Yeah, that specific
that
guy,
cop
Derek,
knew, and you know what I'm thinking, and I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking. These guys have something, and they had some beef in the past. That's what I'm thinking,
That's
and
possible.
It's something personal, and it just came out in the laundry. That's what I'm thinking is happening, and it costed the death of this guy.
But about the other three guys, though, it's quite interesting how the whole Black Lives Matter, they made the whole thing like it was white versus black, but one of the police officers was a Vietnamese man.
Mm-hmm.
The other guy was a white guy, I'm
mm-hmm.
assuming. And then the third guy, he's actually black, but he has a last name that's Asian because he was adopted by an Asian woman.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's just it's very politicized and very obsessive about race, but I think it should just be based on accountability and actions on
Yeah.
both sides, the police officers and the victim, George Floyd. So, yeah.
All
And
right.
there have been protests in Sydney and Melbourne, Brisbane.
So all over
this
Australia.
morning. Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure about Perth and the other places, but perhaps yes. They did win, I think, a court of appeal to actually be allowed to have the protest, because there was a banning on funerals and weddings and stuff, and then there was a lot of debate about, hey, there's a bit of a double standard for like 10,000 people to have already protested. I think that was yesterday.
Oh,
or
Covey
the
was
day before.
yesterday's. Covey was so yesterday's news now.
Yeah, and today it was allowed.
Yeah, today.
But
And then in a
people-
couple of weeks, we'll have our first contact with an extraterrestrial race that's going to come down and tell us how stupid we are as humans.
Yeah, I didn't realize until the actual protest that there's actually a lot of African Americans in Sydney. There's a lot of influence, and I thought, okay, that's surprising, because I mean, I don't really. It's not that common to see Africans in Sydney, like per se, like the CBD and like the busy areas, unless it's maybe like Western Sydney where there's a lot of refugees and yeah. So
Yeah, well, it's like Vancouver. There's like when I lived in Vancouver, you wouldn't see a lot of the like people from the Caribbean or for other places, right? You wouldn't see them. But when I lived in Ontario, it was all made up of very multicultural, right? It was very different, right? So
yeah,
different pockets, different areas in the country, right? When I lived in Florida, it was predominantly Latino, right?
I just also think it's quite interesting how so many white people, so many Asians, everyone's kind of on the bandwagon for like who can get the most brownie points, but it like holding a sign saying Black Lives Matter is like stating the obvious that the sky is blue. Like, of course Black Lives Matter.
Every life
Everybody.
matters. My friend, I don't know if you watched that. My friend was a fan of the channel was visiting from Jamaica.
Ah, yes.
And he came to visit me at the store, and I talked to him today again. I spoke to him. He came by to see me one more time, and he's going to go back to the coast. Because he's finally going to get flights back to Jamaica. But he told me that he's going to make a Every Life Matters reggae song, that all lives matter.
That's nice.
And I told him, he said, yeah, man, 100%. It's like this, it's everybody's anybody, and everybody is born. Everybody's got a God-given right at birth. But yes, are people being mistreated? Yes. I'm not gonna the Portuguese were mistreated. They put us on buses outside of a mall, you know?
But I also think that this whole Black Lives Matter, it's just giving people an excuse to deflect from solving their own problems. Seeing all the looting, it's hurting Black people. It's hurting immigrants.
It's hitting themselves. They're hurting themselves more than anything else.
And if you actually went and saw that big crowd of protesters, and if you were like a wizard and you could give some truth, like make people be honest, you could ask them, well, raise your hand if you've ingested an illegal substance or stolen from a shop. There'll be a lot of hands raised, possibly. So I think, and I see a lot of parents who have adult children who've committed crimes repeatedly and then saying things about Black Lives Matter. And I just think, where were you to actually discipline your child?
Or better their lives
in
a way, better their lives with better training or education, or better, you know what I'm saying, right?
Like, they care about them when they're dead, but what about when they were alive? They want them to not be in jail and just live a good life. And
yeah, exactly.
It just really says a lot about parenting.
And parenting too, yeah, big time. All right, Nanny, I'm going to let you go. Nanny, 1999.
All right, thanks, Mike.
God bless you.
Same to you.
Bye.
See you.
See ya. That's Nanny from Australia giving us a heads up on what's happening on the ground in Sydney. Okay, so we got August Jones and the customer. August Jones, can you call into the show? August Jones saying, I agree, Floyd was no angel. August Jones is in the United States, so if he could call into the show, I would really, really appreciate it. If he could call in, add me on Skype, Mike Martins 1980, and message me, because he's saying, August Jones says, I agree Floyd was no angel, but that does not justify kneeling on the woman, drunkard's neck for 8 minutes and 39 seconds. I heard the audio. He was continuously begging for air, water, and MoMA. So, yeah, I mean, the cop is just an absolute disaster case. I mean, if whether it would have been with Floyd or somebody else, that cop had I think personally that cop had some mental problems or some sort of issues going on in his life, right? And with him knowing the guy too, on top of that, and working with him, that is a bigger, it starts opening a lot more can of worms, right? Yeah, the Ravens got a good point. All lives matter. You offend one of us, you offend all of us. That's exactly what the case is here. Let's go down to, I want to go down to Colorado here and get Lord Humongous. I need to talk to Lord. I think he was in Denver at the protest down there. Let's get Lord on the show. Let me see, where the heck is his, did he change his, come on, I was going to call Lord earlier today. Then I finally see him in the comments come in later. Where are you? Oh, man, where did he go? I have him on my Skype. Usually the first one. There it is. It's usually the first one on my Skype. Hopefully he picks up. I wonder if he went to Denver.
Hello?
Yo, what's up, dog?
Hey, dog. I like your Corvette, man.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Thanks a lot. You know what? I've been wanting to buy one for a long time. The opportunity came, and I just took it.
Hey, you helped out a friend. I think that's what more of us need to do. I think,
Buddy was in a really bad situation. Buddy was in a pretty bad situation. So
that's a prime example of how barter works,
Mm-hmm. Well, I got it taken over to the local dealer in his area, and the dealer took a look at it, did the inspection and everything. And it was good. The vehicle was pretty sound. The only thing it needed was the brakes are pretty low.
Right.
So
that's no big deal.
Yeah, I could do brakes myself. I'm not too worried. Okay, so did you go down to Colorado?
Yeah, I'm in Colorado all the time.
Denver. Did you go down to Denver? I'm sorry. Sorry. Did you go down to Denver?
Yeah, I've been down there a couple times. It's gotten quieter. Everything's calmed down.
Okay.
There's not anybody on the street.
Okay, so
we've had these leftist groups operating in Denver for a long time. They actually doxed me one time back on Facebook.
Really?
Because I was against them. They were against gun rights. They were trying to go against the people that were standing up and protesting for gun rights down at the Capitol. Yeah, back in 2009. Yeah, they try to label you as everything under the book. They called me a Nazi. They called me this. They called me that. These are all leftist tactics, man. These people have to understand what's really going on. They're still not getting it.
No, I don't think a lot of these people will get it. So brainwashing tactics in full effect there. So you are seeing it quiet down, is what you're saying?
Here in Denver, yeah, but we're a much smaller metropolitan area than like Los Angeles or New York. They destroyed Brooklyn. They stabbed 3 cops or shot 2 and stabbed 1 in the neck. They're using these tactics. Not that I side with the cops either. I mean, this whole system of cops and the system that they run on admiralty law. That's the metropolitan cops. Any cop cities are all part of the fraternal, free order of Masons.
Well, in all fairness, 90% of cops out there, they're family, good people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, they don't understand what they've signed up for. They don't understand.
Yeah, because a lot of the people in the German army in the 30s had no idea what was happening back home in Germany.
Exactly. That's why that's where they got their Wehrmacht from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No. I mean, until people realize that our Constitution has been hacked by our own two separate law systems in this country, and people start getting back to the constitutional law and supporting the Constitution, nothing's going to change, man. These government controllers are all international, and they run from the international banks. Everything's about money. It always boils back to money.
Follow the money.
So-called always follow the money, man. You know, you don't think these guys are getting paid off by some NGO group, either George Soros or some other global elitist that has all this funny money just to throw at these different causes. And at the end of the day, dude, it's all worthless, man. That's what people don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, show me the guy that's holding 100 million tons of gold. That's the guy that makes the golden rules. You know, because he has the power to bank. This stuff, the paper receipts, is it's a joke. You know, that's why people need to just, you know, keep doing the best they can, man. Like get things you're gonna need, because it's gonna get a lot worse. They cannot stop this debt that's been you know, put in motion. $25 trillion on this so-called U.S. debt clock.
I saw you comment on one of my videos there about the $10 billion, tens of billions of dollars that went missing in Canada, and they have no idea where it is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, what the hell is that all about?
Right. It's all made up. It's all made up. It's all programming. It's all digital. You know, if you could sit from your computer and have a bank and say, okay, I'm Mike Martins, and today I want to give myself $10 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what could you do with that kind of power? You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
I mean,
I'm listening.
You know what I'm saying, Jelly Bean? Because this is the kind of sickness that we're dealing with. Until people get that symbol out of their head, of that, you know, the dollar symbol with the S,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what everybody's religion is. That's why all this stuff continues. You know, nobody focuses on the true God anymore. They don't focus on honest money. Honest money came from God. It was gold and silver, man.
That's right.
And there's a reason for it.
Well, there's a
Because
reason why people don't scrap their gold and silver and they keep it.
Yeah, but it's the only thing that can extinguish a debt on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
You can't extinguish a debt with fiat papers. It's impossible.
No, because you're always going to be paying paper with paper.
Exactly, and that's what keeps the money velocity system going.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what keeps all these gangsters in power that have these so-called billions of dollars, that own all these multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar companies. Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
Stop using their stuff, man, because, you know, the next big enemy is the big tech. You know, Bill Gates is involved with that, and plus the meat. Some of the chatters were in the comments tonight talking about the meat companies.
Mm-hmm.
I said that months ago. I was on Amazing Polly's channel telling her to look for Bill Gates before she even knew about Bill Gates.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, that's how it's all one big cycle, Mike. You have to get yourself and our followers. The only way to fight for freedom is to remove yourself from all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's basically. Someone's asking who I'm speaking to. Marge, we are talking to Lord Humongous, who is in just outside of Denver here, giving us an insight. He's been to downtown Denver a few times, and it's been quieting down, so we're getting some footage here. This is footage from yesterday from Minneapolis, Minnesota, that I got up right now.
I would say your hot zones that are heating up are New York and the big two cities. That's what I've seen. You know, that's why we're seeing stuff of like the Antifa showed up in Ukiah, California, and got their asses kicked by a bunch of locals that were armed. You know, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. The police force in this country is weak. It's weak. Some of these police chiefs, I'm saying, they're sitting there bowing down to this BLM BS.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing more than a Marxist operation, and it's continuing.
Mm-hmm.
Us real Americans see all this stuff going on, and we're prepared for it.
We're getting a lot of people. This is the fifth person to come on and saying that this stream is not on their timeline, or they didn't get people are coming in late to the show. That's why I'm wondering. I'm like, wow, we only have 150 people watching. Usually we get up to the 300, 320 mark. But I'm getting, this is like the fifth or sixth person now. They're saying this channel is shadow banned in the comments. Of course.
Yeah, because we talk about the truth, man, and that's, you know what, that's all that really.
Again, we're like Cheers. We're like, this channel has something that no other YouTube channel in history will ever have. We actually have a community where we know each other.
And it's called freedom, Mike. You know, when you can speak freely, and that's what Christ is all about for all the Christians out there that believe in Christ.
Well, he is the King of Peace, right?
He's the king of he's the king of peace. He's the king of truth. He's the king of what were we just talking about?
Everything. And why do you think they want to abolish Christianity everywhere? Because Christianity gives hope. Watch the movie, guys. Did you see the movie I could be telling everyone to watch last year called Silence? It's on Netflix, I think.
No, I don't. I don't have Netflix, Mike. I just, I'm very limited on my technical capabilities, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
There's
a lot of famous actors in this movie. I'm urging everyone to please watch this movie. It's about the Portuguese being kicked out of, or murdered and kicked out of Japan because people were gaining hope via Christianity, and the rule of China, or the emperor of China, disliked people having hope, especially peasants. You want to watch this movie, guys. You don't have to be Catholic to watch this. Watch this movie. I left the link in the comments.
Mike, of course, because China is an atheist country. They want atheist communism.
Well, Japan. This happened in Japan. But the thing is, the Portuguese had an outpost in Macau, Portuguese China, which they gave up in 1999. But they were basically giving out their Bibles from there, and people from mainland China would come to Macau to get Christian or Catholic supplies.
Why is it? It seems like the powers that be always want to attack people that believe in Christ as their savior. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, if Christ isn't real in their books, and Christ never existed, and Christ was this and this and this, why don't they just leave us alone?
Why do they care so much?
Yeah, why do they care? If it's a hoax and it's not real, okay, then can you stop persecuting us? Can you stop making up things about us? Oh, the church did this today. The church did this today. That's not my church. The Vatican's not my church.
Well, the people's the church, man.
That's right.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But they never really attack. They really never attack any other faith, So that says a lot. If he doesn't exist,
right?
God doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And people need to wise, because this whole Bill Gates, man, and I mean, it's nuts, man. Like, he shut down. I think he's part of the reason why the big four producers in the U.S. shut down the meat production.
And it was Bill Gates' father. That was the big eugenicist movement. No, his grandfather. Sorry, and they had to change the name on it because it sounded too kind of harsh. And then that they actually donated several $1 million to public school funding to get Darwinism in all the schools and
they want to done his dad, Bill Gates' dad, directly. I just saw that on the Corbett Report. It was in one of his clips, and he was talking about they had him in there with the same room with his dad, and his dad's big thing was why people have religious extremist beliefs. Mm-hmm. So I think that's another thing that they attack Christianity on. An extremist Christian belief is somebody that believes in Christ and the peace of Christ. Mm-hmm. What are you trying to say there? I mean, these people are complete buffoons.
Yeah.
I mean, Warren Buffett, all of them, they're all in on it, man. And that's who we gotta focus the light on. These guys that have billions upon billions of dollars, so-called, just to throw at whatever they want to throw at, their AI, their agendas, basically, is what's enslaving us. Why are people buying Apple products? Why are people buying Microsoft products? Why are people buying any of these groups, any of these companies that support it? Amazon, all of them. Mm-hmm. It's in the stock market. It's in the algorithm.
It's programmed in our minds.
It's programmed in your minds. And there's another study that the Club of Rome. This is another great one that I just watched this today. Back in 1973, they had this chart and they were talking about.
Yes.
They're following this stupid. What do these guys know, man? Seriously.
What the thing is, Lord, and this is why I keep getting pushed towards Catholicism is because when you peel back the layers, like the Raven says, when you keep peeling back the layers of the onion, you find the truth. And I think because they want to publicize the church and the Vatican, all this crap, as the mean guys and this, and how can you follow religion like that? No, because when you go far back enough and you peel it back enough, you start to realize things. You start to understand things. And it's all the smoke and mirrors that we're seeing today. It's with, like Stephen. Remember Stephen that was on the show earlier? Every single layer has its own corruption and bullcrap and bureaucracy and red tape of everything.
Well, of course.
Whether it's religion, banking, immigration, whatever it is.
Mike, I grew up with a lot of Roman Catholic friends. I'm more of a Protestant, if you're going to call me something, you know, and there's a big mix between that. You know, there was Irish fighting against, in Ireland, the Catholics against the Protestants.
Right.
You know? Is that what Christ was about?
Nope. Christ, so you go back, but it doesn't matter. You take it further back. It all goes back to Jesus in the end. It doesn't matter what label you are now, but the further you go back, it's all related in the end.
Satan understands all this stuff, Mike. That's why he uses organized religion against everybody. You know, it's part of the power picture. You know, do I like the Pope? No.
I'm not a fan of the Pope. I'm not a fan of Nona. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a fan of any of that. I'm not a fan of any organized in that kind of organization. I play no part in that. I pray. I have a rosary. I believe in Fatima. Our patron saint in Portugal is Fatima. I think you should watch that movie. It's on YouTube. It's called Our Lady Fatima. It's in English. It was actually made by Warner Brothers, believe it or not. And
you have an Our Lady Fatima Catholic Church not too far from here.
Right, but you see what I'm saying? I do have, like, I know, it's not that I know what I know the answer is, but I know Darwinism and creation, and evolution is the biggest piece of garbage that ever existed.
Of course it is.
Like I told the last caller, the second I see a giraffe produce a dog, then I'll start looking at Darwinism and creationism. Or the second I see a soup-like pond start producing humans or something, then I will start looking at evolution. But until then, apes are still apes.
But above all that religion stuff, that, you know, they put their own dogmas in all that stuff. Exactly,
and that's why you got to peel back the onion.
You got to peel back the onion and know that God and Jesus is truth, man, and He does expose their plans. You know, that's why I focus. I don't focus on a man-made religion, man. It doesn't matter to me.
Because
it could be
you know
Catholic,
why? Because
Islam.
Jesus never set out to invent Christianity. That wasn't his mission.
No, exactly. He was the Son of God. He doesn't need religion.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's just like the Pharisees in the temple when he went and threw out the bankers. Same thing. These people are following a very greedy. It's in their greed. It's in the human nature, man. You know, these are the emotional ties, and these people that want to control us all, they know all this stuff. They know how humans react. That's why you have idiots, you know, claiming Black Lives Matter when all lives matter. Mm-hmm. There's no
Brother John is in the comments saying, "What, Mike? Evolution is scientific fact." Well, Brother John, if you want to come on one Mike in the Night, we could debate it for a while, and you could tell me scientifically, because science says something, right? Scientists say something.
How many
Everyone's
times
going to say something.
How many times has science been proven wrong?
Almost every time.
Yeah. What is with all this science? I mean, you know, this is the part of the problem here. Mm-hmm. That man thinks through science and technology, right? Technology, right? The very thing that's enslaving all of us right now is some miracle. Is science. Oh, and it's absolute 100% fact. Well, it's not. Mm-hmm. The data's corrupted. If your data's corrupted, your science is corrupted.
Yeah, if it's a science is a fact, evolution is scientifically a fact. Hold on a second. But then what about all the global warmer doubters that believe in science? Even though science is saying that global warming is real.
Right, exactly.
So what do you got? So then you change the narrative from global warming, like Al Gore in his plane and his private jet. Yeah. They flip it to global cooling, and then they flip it to climate change because it's going to rain in an hour.
Right. It's another scam for money. That's all that whole thing was, man. And it was to build up that power structure. It's all about money and control.
Yeah,
That's the power.
Layla saying evolution theory is a benchmark of bad science. It's the worst religion. It's a religion. Evolution.
Exactly. Like statism. Like these statists that believe in all the state is God. Your government's God. You know, the money's God. No, it's not.
Mm-mm.
That's the lie, man. That's the delusion right there in front of your face. You can see it happening in every aspect, every sector. You know, that's just the way I see it.
David Xavier in the comments says, "I believe in evolution." Okay, that's fine, but I'm not gonna get back into it. But the second I see a giraffe produce something else that evolved a production into something, then I'll believe in it. You know what I'm saying? But until then,
you have the free will to believe in whatever the heck you want to believe in. That doesn't make it right or truthful. You know, like unicorns and fantasy magic cards and all that stuff, right? That's just fantasy. Give me the hard facts, man. Show me the people that are creating the data. How many of those people are getting paid by some entity out there to produce false data? They proved it on the global warming BS data that those scientists were producing. I don't even believe the NASA lies. Everything. It's all a joke, man. It's a mind-bending joke. And if you keep buying into it, that's how they brainwash you.
Brother John saying you wouldn't be on your computer or have internet without science. Oh no, I'm not doubting that. Science is good. I believe, chemical engineers and those people that do scientific experiments to prolong this or help that. I'm not doubting that. I'm doubting evolution.
It's not all science is good either. Not all technology is good.
Well, if anything is good for anything, it automatically goes straight to the military first before it goes to us.
The U.S. military created the internet, not Al Gore. You want a fact? There it is. It's a web. It's an information web. You know, I mean, you don't think the U.S. could shut down the entire internet if they wanted to? You don't think they have that technology over 50 years in advance? Black projects, all that garbage?
Yep.
You tell me.
Sean Lieberman saying data is not science. That's true.
It's not, but it's used in computing and in technology.
Right, but it's not science, right? It's not scientific, right?
It's not. No, I don't think it's scientific. It's a technology, but technologies can be very dangerous psychologically. Why do you think you have all these zombies walking around on smartphones and they're dumber than doornails? You know, common sense wise. We don't need.
August Jones in the comments is saying, "Isn't it interesting that only disciple that betrayed on Jesus was a former banker? The love of money is a hell of a drug."
Yeah, exactly. The love of money is the root of all evil, right?
It is. I think money is the Antichrist because it's taken so many people over. It's taken over so many. You know what I'm saying? You know how many people died because
people
of money?
don't even know. Mike. People don't even know the difference. What money really is.
Right.
And I've told your audience numerous times.
Yes, money should be minted, not printed. I get it.
That's exactly right, and it's weight. It's a physical weight, and it has intrinsic values that can be used in applications for the very technology that these people think that is so great. You know, it's really not. You know, big tech's going to become your enemy, man. At some point, it already is.
Technology eventually will leave man behind.
The 5Gs are frying. They can fry things with those kind of weapons. I mean, they're used in military weapons, Mike. Crowd control. You know, those are the same frequencies that are coming through that 5G. That's why it's so dangerous. That could be what's causing all these illnesses, and then these phony medical tyrants want to make a buck on everything.
Jay Smith is saying in the comments, "Give your stuff away." Then no, that's not the point. The stuff I need my shirt. I need to wear a shirt. I need my computer so I could talk to you guys. It's not about bad. It's about
It's what's that technology is used for. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
You know, you're using it for a good purpose. You're using it to inform people with your show. You know, there's good things about technology, but there's too many bad things that people have access and the power over. You don't want people on some kind of control grid controlling your freedoms
No.
and your God-given rights. That's what it really boils down to, and that's what they're going after.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, let me get to Layla on the show here.
All right, buddy.
She's going full blast in the comments.
Nice.
I'll talk to you soon. We'll talk soon. God bless you, eh?
Yep. God bless.
Bye. Yeah, we're jumping all over the place tonight. Yeah, that's why I light my torch and wave it edition. Blunt News is saying gold is money. Craig Cook in the house. Could also be toxins in the chemtrails. Oh, there's all kinds of crap going on. You know, like what that cop did to that guy was, that cop's an idiot. He's a total deranged, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't agree with what, I totally disagree on and people being mistreated. My culture was mistreated. We're still mistreated. So people need to kind of see the big picture here. There's all this, you know. All right, let me see if this is the right one here. Okay, that's right. Okay.
Hi, Mike.
Yo, what's up?
Not much. Lots of issues.
Tonight's we're all over the place tonight, man.
Yeah.
Tonight's Mike in the Night is a big deal tonight. We pretty much touched on from the Great Flood all the way to 5G.
Yeah, because it's all connected.
It is. So you got a lot to say in the comments. So why don't you tell us what's going on? Go ahead.
Well, there's so much going on, Mike. But you know, this conversation around science, it's really, really important because we have a problem these days that our scientists are like the oracle of the day. Everyone puts their own judgment and their own common sense and reasoning on hold until the oracle at MIT speaks what we were allowed to think and not think. And that's a problem because they have you sold on all sorts of things that pass for science that are not science. And then even if science proved anything and it doesn't prove anything, the thing about science is that it's a self-verifying practice, which means that it is constantly proving itself false. So what we know now as a result of scientific inquiry could be proven false a few years down the line. So actually the most scientific mindset is complete skepticism about what science produces. And science doesn't prove anything. It's math and logic that prove anything. You know, proofs belong in the realm of math and logic. Science just gives evidence. And the scientific method is filled with errors. The most common error is something called the inductive leap, which means that you go from demonstrating something for a few, like a sample, to broadening that conclusion to everything. So that is it's called the inductive leap, and it's a falsity, and it always causes problems because over time, these exceptions start to accumulate, and what they do is they revise the whole theory that was set out to be proved or to be demonstrated, by the scientific effort.
I think.
Now, Brother John was saying, without science, you're not on the internet. Yes, of course, we get planes off the ground, we build buildings. That's not science, in my opinion. That's called engineering.
Yes.
And the difference is that engineering is the product of trial and error. It is not the product of a scientific experiment where you have like an isolated group where you are running something on an isolated sample.
Hold on.
It's not the same thing at all.
I got a response for you from Brother John saying science is a systematic and logical approach to discovering how things in the universe work. When shown to be wrong, it changes its conclusion, unlike religion.
Right, which is all the more reason why we need to be skeptical. And it attempts to be as logical as possible. But the fact of the matter is because science is an empirical practice and not a logical one, as in not a pure logical one, it is prone to these errors. And that is why it is self-verifying, because over time, these conclusions are revisited with more data. And yes, data is not science. Data is something that you run through science. Data is just the stuff that you run on a scientific experiment or a methodology or something. But that's really important. And because they've got us sold on all sorts of scientific thing. And if you listen to videos like what they're trying to sell you through transhumanism, for example, it is loaded with garbage, absolutely loaded with garbage. I mean, they try to make it sound like there's a logical and philosophical reason and a scientific reason why we should be pursuing these projects. They are absolutely all false, all illogical, all totally empty of any reasoning whatsoever, never mind robust logical reasoning. So that's the problem, is that people feel that they don't question science. They can't question science like it's the fountain of truth. Nothing, absolutely wrong. It is a self-verifying practice that is consistently proving itself false. If you look at the history of the pharmaceutical companies, every few years they're telling us how a medicine is not actually as effective as they thought it was, and they tell us how it causes more problems than it causes good.
Right.
And then everyone follows through, and they're like, we have to start all over again, and they go back to believing these same companies. It's very, very easy to drive scientific inquiry in a direction that you wanted to go into. That's why you have all sorts of, private stakeholders and interest groups who are sponsoring universities left, right, and centers to produce the stuff that they want to hear.
So Supreme Canada in the
why
comments saying that's
people-
untrue. Science will defend the views of people funding it, just like you said.
That's right.
Engineering done
That's what I'm
wrong
saying.
results in buildings falling down.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, that's why the 5G thing, there was also evidence that 5G is bad. And so you had the 5G people go to other universities, other research institutions to fund something that would produce something different. But actually, because the evidence against 5G is so strong, they dropped all research on it, and the folks are moving forward without proper testing.
So
it's happening now.
So I had somebody email me, I think it was on Wednesday. That was the first day I'm back at my shop, and really reaming me on they're going to unsubscribe to my channel because they can't believe that I follow Christianity, that I'm part of a sect that has murdered and this and this and that. And it, like, I didn't even respond to the email. It's like, there's something deeper. And the more they sway us away from whatever it is, with whether it's a religion, whether if it's drinking clean water, whether it's, you get what I'm trying to say, right? Whenever they try to sway you away from something, usually because it's either good for you or it's going to give you a better result.
Yes. Now I personally have issues with organized religions. I am very skeptical about the integrity of these organizations.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Vatican is a Class A fraud, and it's a very dangerous institution. It's actually the IMF of the world. And, I think, where this guy is coming from, like, I sort of see where he's coming from, but it applies to actually all religions. If you look at all religions, all of them have a history of massacre. And
oh no, we're not allowed to say that on YouTube. We could go ahead and criticize Christians.
Facts,
we could criticize Christianity.
Right, exactly.
That's
but
fine.
We can't criticize everyone else. Right.
Yeah, but they could, any other religion you bring up, you cannot criticize or question it or say anything about. But Christianity is okay to go ahead and do that. So that just gives me more leverage on saying that, yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to see another Hail Mary and I'm going to pray to Jesus tonight.
Yeah.
So the more they push it, the more they... Have you seen that movie that I keep telling people to watch? I keep putting the link in the comments called A Silence.
I don't watch movies, but yeah, I'll look it up. I'll find out what it's about.
Please watch this one. Just watch this one movie. That's all. It's not preaching. It's not... it's a true story. It's from the diary of one of the priests that had that diary. And I think this is definitely Layla, this movie. I'm going to put a link in the comments so you guys can watch the trailer. This movie, Layla, is right up your alley because it actually discusses and touches on some points that we've discussed previously on the channel many times.
Okay.
Because it actually goes a little bit
Mike.
deeper than just religion.
Yeah, I mean, I have a problem with, people make fun of religious people and say religion is for evil people.
Or mentally ill.
Right? Because if you need a religion to tell you that you shouldn't kill, you shouldn't steal, you shouldn't, do these really what seem to be really basic things that keep people above board, and so we have a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can see where people are coming from. For me, the concept of belief and the concept of God is actually the product of reason. It's not the product of a religion. I think faith is required, yes, because you don't have anything demonstrable around the concept of a God. But for me, I'm a completely irreligious person, but I am a believer. But that's because of thinking about, the state of the world, and also from personal experience. So that's my take on it. But I do think that people need to question these institutions because it's very obvious that they're politicized. The Vatican, for example, is probably the most powerful organization in the world.
One of the richest,
it
too.
runs, for some reason, right? It's got all this gold. And they run everything. A lot of things tie back into the Vatican. Everything from law to the trust law, which is behind everything that is debit credit. It is basically the IMF. Mm-hmm. And a lot of jurisdictions tie into the Vatican, actually, including the UK and the Commonwealth, of course, and the US. Maritime law, all of that stuff ties. UCC, for example, UCC is very, very important. That's Uniform Commercial Code. It all ties back into the Vatican. And you have to wonder why it does it. And the answer,
all roads
apparently,
lead to Rome.
All roads lead to Rome. That's right. It's what Romley on Justinian Deception calls the Justinian Deception.
Right.
So that's where law was reshuffled or enhanced. I don't know what it was exactly, to bring people under what we now understand as corporations, under corporate law.
Right.
So it's a long-winded and complex conversation. I don't know anything, and I don't know all that much about it. I'm still looking into it. But things like Canada being a corporation, Canada not having a constitution, Canada having a Charter of Rights is part of that conversation because it trickles down into, who basically has a right over you and why. Mm-hmm. And things like birth certificates and what you tie into all fall under this discussion.
It does. It definitely does.
So
we got to
and it all ties back to the Vatican.
Everything. Okay, AV1611 says, YouTube did not show me your live mic. So a lot of people are coming in. That's like the 25th time I got that tonight, guys. I'm really sorry that you guys did not get the notification. I needed AV1611 when I was on the show to help back me up against because I believe in creationism, right? I don't believe in evolution, so I needed AV in the comments. But anyways, AV1611, I put a link in there. I need you to watch that movie, please. Everybody in this, I don't care what religion you are, I don't care what you believe or whatever. Everybody needs to watch that movie because I think it kind of shows what Christianity or what Christianity should have been or should have continued as opposed to where it's become now, right? Or what it's been evolving into right now. And that's the scary part, Layla. And you're right. All roads lead to Rome in the end. It's all about the money, right?
Well, that's the thing, Mike, is that you can say that of all religions. All religions have these ingredients in them that can turn them to something really good and turn them into something really evil. And I think that's how it's important to be really critical. And that's why I think there's no substitute for reason. Even if you can't put your reason on hold, you can't outsource your thinking to anyone, to anything. You have to keep reasoning. You have to keep thinking and assimilating information so that you can come to your own conclusions as every time. You're like a scientific work in progress. And that's true of all religions. They all have these really good ingredients in them, and they've all been used for really wicked ends. It's not just Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
So right now is the time when we're taking advantage of not only Christianity to turn the world into a mess, but also Islam. I think that's pretty obvious. I mean, talk to any Muslim. They'll tell you how wonderful Islam is, and you should read, and you should do all of that, and you'll see all of these wonderful things in Islam. But at the same time, you can bring together the ingredients.
Layla, I actually read the Quran and I read the Hadith.
Yeah,
I read them both, and it's not a wonderful. My ex-wife, many eons ago, was Muslim, and
well, that's similarly my wrathful God, the biblical God as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in the specifics, I would say. It's really in the general, thing of, I think, all of monotheism, actually, not just the whole monotheistic thing. Because something that's interesting is that moral good and moral evil was really brought out in monotheism and not so much in polytheism.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that these polytheists are satanic is really, well, I think they are satanic, but it tends to be a projection from the monotheistic end, because I'm not saying that's true of all polytheistic religions, but in polytheism, the idea of evil is not so much evil, it's more associated with the underworld. So gods like Hades and the Roman equivalent, or is that the Roman, and there's a Greek equivalent. So when the monotheistic religions came into play, they reshuffled a little bit this understanding and turned and they created this bipolar world, if you like, of good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
Moral evil and moral good tends to be a polytheistic understanding, which probably explains why a lot of these people who are driving what I think is a polytheistic, like Sean was saying, a polytheistic direction, with Saturn and Osiris and people who worship the sun and people worship Satan, is they're sort of indifferent to a lot of things that we would consider good and evil, or they seem to be,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, for me,
I don't want to give examples because you're.
Well, my experience reading the Quran and reading the different. I've read the Old Testament. Yes, someone asked me, and I've read the Torah. And I've read the Torah.
What did you find in there? Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of scary things that all three believe about the world. That people will say that the Bible God is a very wrathful God. And, everything you've read in the Quran, that can be held against it. And if you've read maybe not the Torah, but the Talmud, there's some pretty freaky things in there as well.
Yep.
So I don't think, any one religion is spared from this, but that's why I think that reason is absolutely key on top of faith. And that's why I think what Lord was saying is really important too, that we, the people are the church, not these institutions, because these institutions will take any strategy, they will guide it, they can turn it into anything, and they will guide everyone along it. And that is what is happening now with everything from the riots to the vaccines and everything else in politics.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny how we end up in religion sometimes on this show, from the beginning to talking about segregation and riots, and then we end up with the Great Flood, and then 5G, and then chemtrails, and the pig. Can I tell you, Layla, when I was looking at pictures of the Earth from the moon, I'll put that in quotations, the moon, when photos were taken of the Earth, I asked a very, very intelligent question, and this was in grade 2. You know what question I asked the teacher?
What was it?
Why is the Earth so small when you're seeing it from the moon? Shouldn't it be enormously big when you're on the moon? Because when you see the moon from Earth, it's small, right? But when you're on the moon, because it's not that far away, it should be huge. When you're on the moon and you're looking at Earth, the Earth should be humongous. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, it should be bigger than the moon, or that's what they say, right?
Yeah,
That's what
you know what I
astronomy
mean, right?
says.
So the teacher looked
Yeah.
and said to me, you know, that's a really good question. Why is the Earth the
Mhm.
same size as the moon when we were on the Earth and look at the moon? But when we're on the moon, why are we looking at the Earth and it's the same size as the moon? There's something wrong because the Earth should be huge, dwarfing. You should be on the moon and should be looking down at the Earth and seeing all like like the continents. You know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, well, I think the moon landing's fake, and I
Yeah.
think, I don't know if you watched that SpaceX video.
Yeah, I watched that video because you have to go through the that area there that's got high levels of radiation. The what's it called?
No, the mouse, Mike, the mouse. Did you miss that video? I'm gonna link that video. Maybe I think Lord also has that video. That is hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious. It was so fake, and the green screen was just ridiculous.
Is it as bad as my green
Ducal is
screen?
supposed to. No, your green screen is actually better. It's actually better. I'm serious. When you watch it, you'll believe me. And there's that mouse running around the back of the whatever that was. No, that was a joke. That was a complete joke. And to say that people actually sit down and believe that. And that's what I mean. Because people don't understand science, they don't feel that they can question science.
Van Allen
but
radiation
really-
belt. That's what it's called. I said it earlier, and 20 people put it in the comments. The Van Allen radiation belt is a big deal, and they only discovered this recently, right? So, do you remember that one where it wasn't Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin sat down with some girl and asked her, how was it at the moon? And he said, well, we never been to the moon. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it's fake. It's fake. And everyone's going with it, like Russia and China and the International Space Station and all of that. I think it's all, maybe, I don't think that's what they're doing. I think it's more about covering up the satellites and the 5G stuff that's coming along. That's what I think they could be doing as well. I mean, what's his name? Elon Musk has these permits for a massive number of satellites to be thrown up the US. They're implementing it right now.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. But I guess they want. You know what it is, Layla, is that they're throwing so much money towards this that they don't want to lose their funding, right? So they want to keep that funding going.
Mike, I don't think it's about money. I really don't think it's about money. I think money is just.
But then why glorify the human race to a level that shouldn't be? Like, what's the point? Okay, we went to the moon, or we claim to go to the moon, but why glorify us if we can't even do? You know what I'm trying to say, right? What's the point then?
Well, I think they've got really. Yes, I hear you, and I think they've got people mesmerized, and they've got them believing in these. It's almost magical thinking. You know what I mean? They've got people mesmerized in science and the glory of science. And they do this in the business world as well, where they've got people who are worshiping these entrepreneurial geniuses, like that idiot at WeWork and Bill Gates. And, they're not geniuses. Okay. These are people who are raised in environments that drive them to do these things. There's a whole mafia and a whole system behind these people that gets them to be in these positions, and they've got people believing in that people like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, they're geniuses and all of that stuff. And that's my problem with people really being absorbed into this without thinking about what's going on, and that's almost like believing in magic, like being mesmerized and that there's
smoke and
unicorns
mirrors.
And, totally. Yeah. But smoke and mirrors, you feel it's neutral, but I think people are emotionally invested in these figures of greatness, and that is a problem, because that's how you get people who will never question someone like Trump, who will never question someone like.
You brought up a big word. Figures. Did you watch that video I did? I think you commented on it about the tens of billions of dollars missing from Canada.
Yeah, Mike, they've been at this since Trudeau's has been in office. I mean, Pierre Poilievre is nice. He's smart and sharp, but then you have people who say things. Pierre for PM, and here you go again. It's like constantly putting these people on a pedestal. First of all, Poilievre is a certified Zionist. That's something that everyone needs to know. And in fact, his whole party is a certified Zionist party. Okay.
Mhm.
Second, they've been at this all the time. Like he doesn't tire from asking the same questions, and that idiot Morneau doesn't tire from answering the same answers.
Mhm.
You know, they absolutely did not make any dent in the conversation whatsoever. And you know, these dollars that are missing, it's not just missing from Canada. The U.S. Christine Austin Fitz is always reporting on that. What is it? 21 trillion. 21 trillion is missing from the U.S. books. You know, obviously this is all funding everything, you know, from ISIS through the not-for-profits like the Clinton Foundations and the Bill Gates Foundations. And, you know, all of this money is siphoned through all sorts of organizations, not to say anything about the military, the black markets, the drug markets, the prostitution, the child trafficking. You know, that's where all the money is going. And just recently there was, I forget the exact company's name and I need to find it, but the Canada sponsored ISIS through a company in the UK. So the UK tends to be a hub to siphon all sorts of money to the Gulf region, which is where ISIS is incubated, specifically in Saudi Arabia, you know, through the mosque network. All of that is done through not-for-profits, you know, so they do things like they give food, you know, to the poor during Ramadan. But these are the same organizations that are training, you know, that are training ISIS, funding ISIS, funding Israel for sure, because Israel spends a lot on ISIS as well, to do that work, which is now being gathered in North America, you know.
Interesting. Trumpinism.
Yeah. So, well, what is it called? I forget what they're called. CARE. I think it's CARE in North America, and other Muslim organizations. A lot of them are not for profits. But that's my problem with people not understanding the Middle East, is that they absolutely need to understand what goes on in the Middle East so that they understand what is being gathered in their countries in North America. The kinds of Muslims that are gathering in Mississippi and other parts of Canada are people who have been destroying our countries in the Middle East for a long time, because these are the people who are funded by ISIS. This is the George Soros, the leftist, the you know, that side of the equation, and how it is, how it manifests in our countries. So it's the same agenda.
Layla, I got your friend here. He's going to do an awkward pause here.
I'm not watching you, Mike. I'm on my phone, but tell me what you're doing.
Oh, okay. Someone's complaining that my sound is weird. You know what? My sound is weird. Guys, can you hear me and Layla? Can you guys hear us? Because I'm trying to play audio on a video here. And I'm not getting any audio on a video. Interesting. My audio is definitely weird. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear us both? Because someone's complaining about the audio that we have here. I'm waiting for somebody in the comments to catch up. So, give us
Yeah.
I hear you. Okay, I hear you fine. Yes, I can. Okay, so you can hear us both. Okay, that's fine. Just I got no audio on my computer here, which is really weird. All right, so continue, Layla. Please tell us a story.
Well, yeah, so it's the same agenda all over the world. It's just that it's expressed differently in different countries, just so that it works with the culture and it makes sense to the people. This week, there were two massive protests in Lebanon, one against corruption and the other one against Hezbollah's arms. So they want to disarm Hezbollah.
Hold on.
The IMF and Zionism and all of that.
Hold on, you went through the ringer there. We lost you, and then you came back. Something about Hezbollah or something?
Yeah, there were protests against Hezbollah. Of course,
Okay.
these are all George Soros sponsored, to disarm Hezbollah. You know, so Hezbollah is the resistance. They have, they're basically a militia. They have weapons, and they're the ones that are standing in the face of the IMF, Zionism, and in the face of Lebanon becoming another dump for the IMF and the globalists.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same. But what I'm saying is that it's the same thing everywhere, except it expresses differently in different places. So Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter is very obviously a George Soros sponsored operation, just as feminism is, the LGBT, and all of the leftist groups. The purpose of all of this is to foment a crisis, and I think we are well on our way to this. In the U.S. this week, there were 2 gunshots, and one person was shot. And remember, Mike, when it was only 5 cases of the virus in Wuhan? Well, here we are at 2 gunshots in the United States. You've got to admit that we've gone a long way from Wuhan to where we are today, and that was just in 3.5 months.
Well, can you give us a little bit of predictions here on what you think is going to happen now for the next 6 months of the year? Is it going to be an alien first alien contact? Or, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if some aliens come to Earth and laugh at us.
I don't think aliens just yet, but honestly, if they're gonna, I mean, you've got to admit that they've done a really good job at this. This has accelerated really, really fast. If we just recap what happened in Q1, everything from locking down an entire planet to crashing currencies, and to talking about mass vaccinations, and now the riots. So people are like, oh, forget about the, social distancing is over and all of that stuff. I don't think social distancing is over, because the purpose of social distancing is to be monitored by the 5G network. So the the thermal cameras and all of that technology needs people to be distanced in order to pick out individuals. So they are training people from now to social distance so that the technology can be effective. But you've got to admit that this has accelerated really, really fast, and that they've done a really good job to do so much in just 1 quarter. Now we're heading into the riots. So what is Q2 about? Well, I think that if they continue at this pace, they can very well implement martial law within Q2, towards the end of Q2. So now they're escalating the crisis. Q3, there's going to be the second lockdown, the second COVID, and that's where there's going to be an implementation of martial law, or whatever you want to call it, all of these restrictions. And then Q4, there's going to be the implementation of the vaccination and, the new order, as they say, being implemented. Another thing that's going on, and that people are not really talking about, is the 4th industrial revolution, what they're calling Industry 4.0.
Yes.
And that's basically IoT implemented on the job. So implemented in manufacturing. So the top 3 industries that are going to be hit by this are manufacturing, transport, railway, and customer service. And that's going to take out a whole lot of jobs. And so I think this is happening now. And, as they say, easy to fire, hard to hire. And they're going to implement the Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is dependent on the 5G network. So this is basically, smart manufacturing, smart transport, self-driving cars, self-driving trains, and all of that. And that's going to be implemented across the board. You probably heard, Mike, that Bombardier is going to lay off 2,400, I think, 2,400 people.
Yeah, I heard about that. So that's going to be a big deal, because that's your friend's favorite company.
Who's my friend?
JT.
Bombardier is JT's favorite.
Well, yeah, he's bailed them out like 52 times.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, because it was the union thing, wasn't it? Yeah. It was a union thing, right? Yeah. And Boeing is firing 400 in Winnipeg, I think. So what are you going to do with all these people, right? You're going to give them a vaccine. And what's interesting is that you have this company called Apiject that's creating a different way of vaccinating people.
Yes, I heard about that too.
The vial or the container, yeah, they're different. They've got this nanotech on each syringe. And what I'm thinking is that, well, it's not necessarily the same dose for everyone. I mean, they could very easily track, with this kind of technology, they could very easily track the different things that they're giving people. It's very possible that they can give different things to different people. One conspiracy theory is the triple helix. I think it's a bit of a conspiracy theory, but genetic modification is not off the table. They've done it on all sorts of different creatures. Maybe they haven't done it on humans yet, but we don't really know that. If you're looking at all sorts of people who are identifying as women and men when they're not women, they're not men, that could be a genetic modification. They could be doing something to the body where, hormones express differently and create something else in the development. That is possible. That is not far-fetched. That is within science. And so all of these are happening. Another big piece of news is that Canada is in contract to purchase 37 million syringes from Benton Dickinson.
Yes,
Did you catch that one?
Yeah, we talked about that
Yeah,
last
man,
week.
the writing's on the wall. Yeah, don't tell me the writing is not on the wall. I think at this stage, if they accelerate, and they probably will, I'm not seeing anything that's stopping them. If they keep going at this rate, it's very possible that by Q4 they could have all of this ready. 37 million, that is the population of Canada. Okay, that is obvious. That is
obviously.
That is.
Be kind of cautious if they were ordering that much in rounds of ammunition. You could be kind of worried, right?
No, I'd be more reassured, actually. I'm more worried about the 37 million syringes.
Yeah.
I think at this stage, I don't know what different people are up to, but it sounds like it's time for some serious actionable planning. I think people need a plan B, C, and D, and need to run some scenarios if they continue at this acceleration. It is really not what's happening. The U.S. is going up in flames.
I totally agree with what you're saying. Plan B, Plan C, an escape route, a scenario of not only escape route, but different scenarios and a bigger grand scenario with more friends and stuff to organize in case something does get out of hand or something goes out of whack, right? So
yes.
Okay, Layla, we're gonna have to cut it off there. It's my third hour now, and I appreciate you coming on and telling us what's going down.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Take care, Mike.
Soon.
Talk soon.
Bye. That is Layla from in Syria. And guys, that's it, man. Next week, don't forget to set your reminders. We'll get Rex Cohan on next week. He's been wanting to come on this week, but I'll get him on next week. Well, hopefully, Supreme Canon will be available. We'll get the Raven on next week, if he's available. Anthony sent me $5, by the way. I'm going to buy fuzzy dice for my car.
Through the night, you're here with Mike in the night. Let's just talk about the world. Give this page another turn, 'cause you're here with us tonight. Everything's alright when you're here with Mike in the night. Mike in through the night, you're here with Mike in the night. Giving the world light when you're here with Mike in the night. Mike in through the night, you're here with Mike in the night. Sometimes things are just absurd, so let's just talk about the world, 'cause you're here with us tonight. Mike in through the night, you're here with Mike in the night. Mike in through the night, you're here with Mike in the night. Let's just talk about the world.
Give this page another curl,
'cause you're here with us tonight.
Remember, everybody, take care.